Welcome, brave souls, to another spine-tingling episode of Whispers from the Shadows. Tonight, we embark on a journey through the misty swamps and shadowed groves of Florida, uncovering the tales of the 25 most haunted trees in the state. These ancient sentinels stand tall, their gnarled branches reaching out like twisted fingers, holding secrets of the past and whispers of the restless dead. So, dim the lights, settle in, and prepare to hear stories that will make your skin crawl. Deep within the heart of Oak Hammock Park in Port St. Lucie, Florida, stands a tree unlike any other, a massive, gnarled oak whose twisted branches stretch skyward as if grasping for something long lost. Locals know it simply as the Devil's Tree, a name whispered with unease, carrying a weight of fear and dark legend. Its thick, weathered trunk bears scars from decades of storms and the relentless passage of time. Yet there is an unmistakable aura surrounding it, a presence that seems to watch anyone who ventures too close. The air around the tree is often heavy, thick with humidity, but also with something less tangible, a sense of dread that creeps into the bones and refuses to leave. The tree's dark reputation stems not from its natural age or imposing size, but from the events that took place beneath its sprawling limbs in the 1970s. It was during this time that serial killer Gerard John Schaefer, a man whose crimes would shock the state and the nation, used the Devil's Tree as the site of some of his most heinous acts. Known for luring unsuspecting victims into the wilderness, Schaefer's presence left an indelible mark on the oak. Some say the tree itself became a silent witness, absorbing the fear, pain, and anger of those who suffered there, turning its energy into a lingering curse that has never been lifted. Visitors to Oak Hammock Park often speak of a strange unease as they approach the Devil's Tree. The trail leading to it is surrounded by thick undergrowth, twisting unnaturally with every breeze. Many who attempt to photograph the tree report their cameras failing, memory cards erasing themselves, or images coming out blurred and distorted, as if something beyond comprehension intervenes. Others claim to feel sudden chills or hear whispers carried on the wind, voices too faint to distinguish, yet unmistakably human. Some say these are the murmurs of Schaefer's victims, trapped between this world and the next, unable to move on. Locals have long treated the Devil's Tree with caution, warning outsiders never to climb its limbs, carve into its bark, or linger beneath its canopy after dark. Those who ignore these warnings often speak of misfortune following them long after leaving the park. Cars break down inexplicably, homes are plagued by strange noises, and relationships suffer sudden turmoil. Some theorists claim the tree's dark energy reaches far beyond the park's boundaries, its malevolent influence following anyone who dares disturb it. The very soil around the roots seems imbued with the memory of violence, as if the earth itself remembers what happened and refuses to forget. The tree's shape is unsettling in itself, some reaching down toward the ground like clawed hands, while others curve upward, resembling skeletal fingers reaching for the sky. On certain nights, when the moon is obscured by clouds, these branches cast shadows that seem alive, shifting and stretching as if animated by an unseen force. Witnesses often report seeing figures moving among the shadows, though no one else is present. Some describe fleeting glimpses of a man in tattered clothing or the pale form of a woman, their eyes hollow, their movements unnatural. These apparitions vanish as quickly as they appear, leaving only the eerie feeling of being watched, of being followed even when alone. Many who explore the Devil's Tree claim that the whispers are more than background noise, they are warnings. Some hear their own names spoken softly, carried by a wind that moves without direction. Others report hearing words of despair, cries of pain, or frantic pleas for help. These sounds often intensify at night, especially during storms, when lightning illuminates the twisted branches and thunder reverberates through the park. Hikers and local explorers recount the oppressive sensation of being trapped, of time stretching and contracting unnaturally, as though the tree itself manipulates reality to keep intruders close. The legend of the Devil's Tree has grown with each passing decade. Some say it is cursed, a physical manifestation of the evil that occurred beneath it. Others believe it serves as a gateway, a liminal space where the boundary between the living and the dead is thin, allowing the spirits of Schaefer's victims to linger. Paranormal investigators have attempted to capture evidence, setting up cameras, audio recorders, and motion detectors. Many return with recordings of unexplained sounds, fleeting shadows, and disembodied voices. Even when no human presence is near, these devices often register activity, lending credence to the idea that the Devil's Tree is alive with something far beyond the natural world. Despite or perhaps because of its sinister reputation, the Devil's Tree continues to draw curiosity seekers and thrill seekers alike. Some are skeptical, attributing the strange occurrences to imagination, environmental factors, or local folklore. Yet, nearly every visitor recounts at least a fleeting moment of unease, an unshakable impression that they are not alone. The tree seems to demand respect, its presence a reminder of the darkness that humans can unleash, and the lingering consequences that can remain long after a tragedy has occurred. Even decades after Schaefer's crimes, the Devil's Tree remains a haunting centerpiece in Oak Hammock Park. Its twisted silhouette against the Florida sky serves as a chilling symbol of horror rooted in history, a silent witness to violence and the sorrow of those who suffered beneath its boughs. The whispers on the wind, the sudden chills, and the fleeting shadows all reinforce the tale of a tree that is far more than a mere oak. It is a vessel for grief, terror, and the restless spirits who cannot find peace. For those brave enough to approach it, the Devil's Tree is more than a curiosity. It is a chilling experience, a confrontation with the unseen and the unknown. It stands as a testament to the lasting impact of human cruelty and the way nature can absorb, reflect, and even perpetuate the echoes of our darkest acts. Whether you see it in the daylight or encounter its full terror in the moonlight, the Devil's Tree commands a presence that lingers long after you've left Oak Hammock Park. At the quiet crossroads of Highways 90 and 19 in Monticello, Florida, there stands a solitary oak known locally as the Hanging Tree. Its gnarled limbs stretch wide against the sky, as though stripped by centuries of storms and sorrow. To the casual traveler, it may appear as just another old tree along the roadside. But those who know its history and heed the warnings of locals approach with caution, for the Hanging Tree is far more than an ancient oak. It is a silent witness to a dark past, its roots soaked in blood and tragedy. The legend of the Hanging Tree reaches back to the time of the Civil War. In those turbulent years, Monticello and its surrounding areas were rife with conflict, suspicion, and fear. The tree became an execution site, where individuals accused of espionage, theft, or betrayal were hanged for all to see. Some were soldiers caught in acts deemed treasonous. Others were civilians accused of aiding the enemy or committing crimes under the guise of wartime necessity. Their bodies were left dangling from the limbs of the oak as a grim warning, swaying in the wind above the dusty ground, a spectacle meant to instill fear. Even today, locals speak in hushed tones about the tree, their voices tinged with unease. Travelers who pause nearby often report an oppressive feeling, a weight in the air that is difficult to explain. On warm, humid afternoons, when the wind rustles the dry grass at the base of the tree, some swear they can hear the faint creaking of ropes, as if the bodies of the past have never truly left. The sound is subtle at first, almost imagined, but it lingers, growing in intensity the longer one stands near the tree. It is the echo of history, a remnant of terror that refuses to fade. At night, the Hanging Tree takes on a more sinister presence. Witnesses often report seeing ghostly figures suspended from these limbs, swinging gently as though caught in a moment, frozen in time. The shapes are indistinct, shadowy forms that disappear when approached, leaving behind only the rustle of leaves and the faint odor of decayed earth. It is as if the tree itself preserves the memory of its victims, replaying their final moments for anyone daring or unfortunate enough to linger. Drivers passing the tree at night often recount sudden chills, the inexplicable sensation that someone is watching from the roadside. Some have claimed to see figures step onto the road, only to vanish when headlights fall upon them. Others report feeling an invisible hand brush against their shoulder, a ghostly reminder that the hanging tree is no longer a place of the past, but a conduit for lingering spirits. Locals advise travelers to keep moving, warning that those who stop too long may attract the attention of forces they cannot comprehend. The tree's appearance reinforces its eerie reputation. Its bark is deeply furrowed, scarred with years of weather and, some say, deliberate markings from the executions that once occurred beneath its canopy. The limbs twist in unnatural angles, some drooping low, as though bowing under the weight of centuries of sorrow, while others rise skyward, skeletal and reaching. On windy nights, the branches sway with a hollow, groaning sound that many interpret as the whispers of those who perished here. Even during the brightest days, the tree seems to cast a shadow darker than the sun should allow, a gloom that follows visitors like a reminder of the lives claimed by its history. Stories of encounters at the hanging tree vary, yet they share a common thread. The past is never truly gone. Hikers, pedestrians, and motorists have all recounted sightings of shadowy forms. Some have heard cries, muffled sobs, or faint curses whispered through the wind. Others claim to see the rope itself swaying, though the tree has been long cleared of any such instruments. The phenomenon is unsettling, a blending of memory, grief, and the supernatural. It is as though the tree, a living monument to tragedy, refuses to let the past remain buried. Even those who dismiss ghost stories report an unsettling sense of unease near the tree. Many feel an inexplicable pressure, as though the air itself is heavier, and some leave the site hurriedly, unable to shake the feeling that unseen eyes are upon them. The hanging tree, it seems, exacts a silent influence on all who venture to close, a reminder that certain sites carry the weight of history in ways the mind cannot fully comprehend. The tree has become more than a legend. It is a symbol of the unresolved, a marker of history's darkest moments etched into the landscape. Scholars, paranormal investigators, and thrill-seekers have visited, each hoping to capture evidence of the supernatural. Cameras have recorded faint orbs of light, thermographic devices detect sudden cold spots, and audio recorders pick up whispers indistinguishable to the human ear. Every investigation seems to confirm what locals have long known. The hanging tree is alive with memory, with presence, and with something that transcends explanation. Despite its grim history, or perhaps because of it, the hanging tree continues to draw the curious. Some approach with reverence, leaving tokens at its base: a flower, a stone, or a simple note. Others come seeking proof of the supernatural, hoping to witness the shadowy figures for themselves. Yet all who linger report a lingering unease, a quiet dread that seeps into the mind and lingers long after leaving Monticello. The hanging tree is more than an old oak at a crossroads. It is a keeper of stories, a silent witness to human suffering and the inexorable passage of time. Its presence reminds all who approach that some tragedies are too potent to fade, that the echoes of violence and despair can remain rooted in the world long after the events themselves have passed. Those who dare stand beneath its skeletal branches may hear the whispers, see the shadows, and feel the weight of history pressing down, leaving them with a memory they cannot unlearn. For generations, the hanging tree has stood as a testament to the past, a chilling, enduring reminder of mortality, cruelty, and the thin veil between the living and the dead. Even now, travelers and locals alike speak of it in hushed tones, cautioning one another to respect its presence, to pass with care, and to never forget that some places in the world are haunted not by legend alone, but by the very souls who once walked among us. In the quiet expanse of Bulow Creek State Park, near the remnants of the once grand Bulow Plantation, stands a tree that has witnessed centuries of history, the Fairchild Oak. This southern live oak, estimated to be over 400 years old, towers above the forest floor. Its massive limbs, stretching wide and low, draped in thick, silvery Spanish moss that sways gently in the breeze. The tree commands attention, not only for its age and size, but for the stories it carries. Stories that are heavy with sorrow, pain, and the lingering echoes of the past. Visitors who approach the Fairchild Oak often speak first of its sheer presence. The trunk is immense, gnarled and knotted, a living testament to centuries of storms, sun, and wind. Its bark is thick and furrowed, with deep crevices that seem to swallow the shadows of those who walk close. The branches form a dense canopy, filtering sunlight into shifting patterns on the ground. And in the quiet of the park, there is a stillness that feels almost sacred, as if the land itself is holding its breath. Yet beneath this beauty lies a weight, a darkness that many who linger near the oak have felt, even if they cannot explain it. The Fairchild Oak's haunting reputation comes from its connection to the Bulow plantation and the enslaved individuals who once labored there. The plantation, established in the early 19th century, relied on forced labor, and many who toiled on its grounds suffered harsh conditions, abuse, and despair. Local legend claims that the spirits of some of these individuals never left the land. On certain nights, particularly when the wind rustles through the Spanish moss, visitors report hearing low, mournful cries that seem to come from the ground itself, rising from the roots of the oak as if it were channeling the pain of those long gone. Some say the cries are not simply echoes of the past, but the voices of restless souls, tied to the land by grief and injustice, unable to move on. Those who have spent time under the Fairchild Oak often describe an overwhelming sense of melancholy, a heaviness in the air that settles over the shoulders and seeps into the chest. Some feel as though unseen eyes are watching, following their every movement. Hikers and explorers have reported fleeting shadows passing among the trees' massive roots. Figures too indistinct to identify, but too deliberate to ignore. Occasionally, the scent of smoke or charred wood drifts on the wind. Though there is no fire to explain it, a reminder of the plantation's turbulent past and the hardships endured by those who lived and died there. The tree is said to act as a gathering point for the energies of the land. On quiet nights, visitors claim to hear soft murmurs, whispering voices blending with the rustling leaves. The sounds are gentle, almost like a lullaby, yet carry an undercurrent of sorrow and warning. Some who have listened closely report hearing names, phrases, or fragments of conversation from long ago, as if the Fairchild Oak preserves the memories of those who suffered and suffered alone. Campers nearby often recount waking to find small depressions beneath the tree, as though someone or something had knelt there during the night, though no footprints are ever left behind. Photographers and paranormal enthusiasts are drawn to the Fairchild Oak, hoping to capture its spectral activity. Many report cameras malfunctioning when pointed directly at the tree, or photos showing faint figures standing near the roots, faces blurred or missing entirely. Audio recordings frequently capture soft, sobbing, whispers, or unexplained rustling sounds. The energy around the oak seems to resist interference, preserving its secrets while revealing just enough to remind visitors that they are in the presence of something beyond ordinary understanding. The oak's massive limbs, draped in moss, contribute to its haunting aura. The Spanish moss sways and twists in the wind, casting shadows that resemble human forms, bending and reaching toward the forest floor. On nights when the moon is full, these shadows stretch and shift unnaturally, creating the impression of movement even when the forest is still. Witnesses describe fleeting glimpses of figures, sometimes women, sometimes children, walking slowly among the roots and branches, vanishing when approached. These sightings are often accompanied by a chill in the air, a sudden drop in temperature that leaves the skin prickling and the heart racing. Despite its dark reputation, the Fairchild Oak is also a place of reflection and respect. Many who visit do so not out of curiosity for the supernatural, but to honor the history it embodies. The tree is a living monument to the lives of those who endured hardship, and the echoes of sorrow that cling to it serve as a reminder of the human cost of history. Some leave flowers, small tokens, or written messages, acknowledging the spirits said to linger beneath its canopy. Others simply stand in silence, absorbing the weight of centuries and contemplating the resilience of those who lived and died on this land. The haunting of the Fairchild Oak is subtle but persistent. It is not a place of overt terror or violent manifestations, but of quiet sorrow and lingering presence. The cries, the shadows, the sudden chills, and the feeling of being watched are all signs of a spirit that remembers. The oak does not scream or attack. Instead, it mourns, a sentinel over the passage of time and the souls who remain tethered to the earth by memory and pain. For those who wander through Bulow Creek State Park, the Fairchild Oak stands as a testament to endurance, grief, and the mysteries that linger at the edges of history. Its branches stretch wide as if to embrace both the living and the dead, a constant reminder that the past is never truly gone. Beneath its canopy, one can feel the weight of countless lives and hear the faint whispers of those who endured too much, a haunting melody carried on the wind, ensuring that the memory of the plantation and its people will never be forgotten. In the heart of Tallahassee, Florida, there stands a tree unlike any other ancient oak, known as the Lafayette tree. Its massive trunk rises proudly from the ground, gnarled and scarred by centuries of wind, storms, and the slow passage of time. Draped in long strands of Spanish moss, the tree stretches its wide branches across the sky, casting deep shadows that shift and dance with every passing breeze. To most visitors, it is simply a remarkable specimen of nature. Yet to those who know its history, the Lafayette tree is far more than a tree. It is a monument to a haunting past, a silent witness to death, war, and lingering spirits. The legend of the Lafayette tree dates back to the Revolutionary War, when French soldiers allied with American forces fought in the southern colonies. One soldier, whose name has long been forgotten, is said to have died near the site, struck down during a skirmish. According to local lore, his body was never recovered, and his spirit became bound to the land. Decades later, a lightning bolt struck the tree during a violent storm, splitting its trunk and revealing a human skeleton within. Whether the skeleton truly belonged to the soldier or to another long-forgotten individual, the event cemented the tree's reputation as a place of mystery and supernatural presence. Those who venture near the Lafayette tree at night often report an immediate sense of unease. The air around it feels heavier, almost electric, and a sudden chill seems to settle in the bones. Hikers, joggers, and late-night wanderers have all described hearing the unmistakable sound of marching footsteps on the ground near the tree, rhythmic, precise, and echoing as if a small troop of soldiers is passing by unseen. At times, the footsteps appear to circle the tree, coming closer and then fading away, leaving only silence and the rustle of moss in the wind. Witnesses also speak of a shadowy figure that appears near the tree after dusk. It is often described as tall and indistinct, shrouded in darkness, yet with a presence that feels both deliberate and watchful. Some say the figure wears a soldier's uniform, though its details are always hazy, as if the memory of the past cannot fully manifest. The figure seems to emerge from the shadows of the tree itself, moving along the roots and limbs before vanishing entirely when approached. Those who have tried to follow it often find themselves disoriented, walking in circles as if the tree has reshaped the land around it. The Lafayette tree's physical form adds to its eerie reputation. Its trunk is thick and twisted, with deep fissures and knots that resemble hollow eyes staring from within. Branches bend and coil in unnatural angles, creating the impression of fingers reaching toward the sky or the ground. On windy nights, the Spanish moss drapes and sways, casting long, shifting shadows that seem to move independently of the wind. Some visitors report seeing shapes, glimpses of soldiers, faces, or indistinct human forms, briefly appearing among the branches or near the base of the tree, only to vanish when looked at directly. The soundscape around the Lafayette tree enhances its haunting atmosphere. Even in the absence of wind or other natural noise, many report hearing whispers and murmurs drifting from the direction of the trunk. Some claim the whispers are words of warning. Others say they are fragments of old French phrases, the echoes of soldiers long dead. When lightning strikes the area during storms, the haunting seems to intensify. People describe a sudden flash that illuminates the figure standing near the tree, followed by an eerie silence that presses heavily on the ears and chest. It is as if the tree itself is a conduit for the soldier's unfinished story, replaying it for anyone brave enough, or unlucky enough, to witness it. Paranormal enthusiasts and historians alike have visited the Lafayette tree in search of proof. Cameras often fail to capture the shadowy figure clearly, and audio recorders frequently pick up low murmurs, footsteps, or the creaking of branches that cannot be attributed to the wind. Thermographic devices sometimes detect sudden cold spots, and motion sensors occasionally record movement that is invisible to the naked eye. Every investigation seems to reinforce the idea that the Lafayette tree is more than an old oak. It is a repository of memory, grief, and unresolved presence. Despite its dark reputation, the Lafayette tree draws visitors not only for its haunting qualities, but also for its historical significance. Some come to pay respects, leaving small tokens at the base of the tree: a coin, a flower, or a handwritten note. Others come seeking adventure or the thrill of the supernatural, hoping to glimpse the shadowy figure or hear the spectral footsteps. Yet nearly every visitor leaves with a lingering sense of awe and unease, an impression that they have touched a fragment of history that refuses to remain buried. The tree also serves as a reminder of the passage of time and the persistence of memory. The Revolutionary War may have ended centuries ago, yet the presence of the soldier seems undiminished, bound to the land by a tragedy that was never resolved. In this way, the Lafayette tree is both a living monument and a haunted sentinel, its roots intertwined with history, its branches reaching into the unknown. It reminds all who approach that the past is never truly gone, and that some stories, especially those marked by violence, fear, or unfinished business, linger long after the events themselves have passed. In a quiet corner of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, there stands a tree that has earned a reputation steeped in fear and mystery. Its sprawling branches twisting skyward and draped in thick moss that sways in the humid breeze. To the unknowing visitor, it may appear to be just another old tree, a remnant of the natural landscape, but those who live nearby are those brave enough to approach after dusk know better. This tree is infamous, whispered about in hushed tones, and linked to a series of strange and tragic events that have left the community unsettled for decades. The origins of the Devil's Tree's dark reputation are murky, but local legend ties it to a series of unexplained deaths and disappearances in Fort Lauderdale. Some say the tree has always been a place where misfortune gathers, a natural landmark cursed by forces beyond comprehension. Others suggest that human malevolence is intertwined with the tree's history, imbuing it with an energy that lingers, waiting to draw others into its shadow. Over the years, witnesses have reported a recurring presence near the tree, a shadowy figure that appears without warning, standing among the roots or drifting silently along the edge of the clearing. The figure is indistinct, cloaked in darkness, yet its presence carries a palpable sense of menace. Those who approach the Devil's Tree often describe a sudden, overwhelming sense of dread. The air grows heavier, the skin prickles, and an inexplicable tension fills the chest. Even on warm, calm evenings, visitors report a chilling sensation, as though unseen eyes are watching from the darkness between the branches. Some have felt invisible hands brush against them or tug at clothing. Brief but terrifying touches that vanish when attention is directed toward them. It is as if the tree itself is aware of intruders, responding with a force that is felt rather than seen. Shadow sightings near the Devil's Tree are frequent enough to be considered a hallmark of its haunting. People walking near the tree after dark often report glimpses of a figure standing silently or gliding along the ground. The figure is never clear, always obscured by darkness or shadow. Yet it seems purposeful in its movements, appearing to observe rather than interact. Some witnesses describe the figure as humanoid, but unnervingly tall or thin, with limbs that appear to stretch unnaturally. Others feel the impression of a face turning toward them, though no features can be discerned, leaving only the sense that the figure is aware of their presence. In addition to sightings, the tree is associated with an array of auditory phenomena. Visitors report hearing whispers that seem to come from within the tree itself, faint murmurs of words just beyond comprehension. Some say the whispers carry warnings or threats. Others claim they are pleas for help, fragments of past suffering trapped in the air. On stormy nights, the sounds intensify, with branches creaking and groaning as if the tree is speaking in its own language, echoing the anguish of the lives it has touched. Some who have camped nearby report waking to soft footsteps circling their tents, or hear rustling in the underbrush with no source in sight. The devil's tree's physical appearance reinforces its eerie aura. Its trunk is wide and deeply furrowed, its bark dark and rough, scarred by age and perhaps by the hands of those who came before. Its branches twist in unpredictable angles, some hanging low to the ground like skeletal fingers, while others reach upward in jagged arcs. In the moonlight, these limbs cast shadows that appear to move independently, sometimes forming shapes that resemble human figures or ghostly silhouettes. Witnesses have reported that shadows sometimes seem to mimic their own movements, a reflection of presence that chills even the most skeptical observer. Despite or perhaps because of its dark reputation, the devil's tree continues to draw attention. Paranormal investigators and thrill seekers have visited, hoping to capture proof of its supernatural activity. Cameras often fail or produce distorted images, while audio recorders pick up faint, unexplainable noises. Thermographic readings sometimes detect sudden cold spots, and motion sensors have registered movement when no human or animal is present. Even those who approach cautiously and respectfully often leave with an unshakable impression that the tree is not merely a tree, but a sentinel of some unseen realm. Locals warn visitors to treat the area with caution. They advise not lingering near the tree at night, not disturbing the roots or branches, and certainly not attempting to confront the shadowy figure. Ignoring these warnings, they say, can invite misfortune, as the tree's presence seems to draw the fearful or the curious into a web of psychological and supernatural tension. Even in daylight, a sense of unease can linger, as though the tree is aware of being observed and responds with silent hostility. The devil's tree is more than a natural landmark. It is a living monument to mystery and fear. Its branches have borne witness to countless stories of tragedy, disappearance, and inexplicable phenomena. The shadowy figure, the whispers, the sudden chills, all of these combine to create a place where history, legend, and the supernatural intertwine. For those who dare approach, the experience is unforgettable, leaving an imprint of unease that lingers long after they have left the park. On the southern tip of Key West, in a secluded and rarely visited corner of the island, stands a tree unlike any other, twisted, leafless cypress, known locally as the ghost tree. Its skeletal branches reach skyward, gnarled and blackened with age, forming jagged silhouettes against the night sky. Unlike the lush palms and greenery that dominate the island, this tree appears almost unnatural, its barren form exuding an eerie presence that draws the curious and unsettles even seasoned locals. For generations, the ghost tree has been wrapped in legend and whispered stories, a monument to betrayal, death, and the restless spirits that linger long after the world has moved on. According to local lore, the ghost tree marks the burial site of a pirate whose life ended in treachery. The story goes that this pirate, a man of cunning and reputation, had amassed treasure and sailed the waters around Key West, feared and respected in equal measure. Yet, his own crew, driven by greed, turned on him during a quiet night at anchor. They murdered him under the cover of darkness, burying his body near the twisted cypress to conceal their crime. Some say they chained him to the tree after death, a punishment both symbolic and cruel, leaving him tethered to the earth while they fled with the stolen treasure. The treachery, the legend holds, imbued the tree itself with a dark energy, marking it as a place where the mortal world and the spirit realm converged. Visitors to the ghost tree often describe an immediate sense of unease, a weight in the air that is difficult to explain. Even in the heat of day, there is a stillness that feels unnatural, as if the wind itself hesitates before passing through the gnarled branches. Those who linger near the tree report feeling watched, as though unseen eyes follow every movement. The closer one approaches, the heavier the air becomes, pressing against the chest, making the heart beat faster, as if the life force of the pirate and his betrayal has seeped into the soil itself. The tree's eerie presence is most pronounced at night, particularly under the glow of a full moon. On such nights, locals claim that the ghost tree seems to emit a faint luminescence, its bark glowing with an otherworldly light. This glow is subtle, a pale shimmer that outlines the twisted branches, casting long shadows across the sandy ground. Those who approach under the moon often report hearing sounds that defy explanation. The dragging of chains across the earth, as though the pirate's spirit struggles to break free from the binds of betrayal. Sometimes the faint clang of iron links accompanies a whisper carried on the wind, a voice murmuring complaints or curses from beyond the grave. Shadowy figures are also reported in the vicinity of the ghost tree. Witnesses describe fleeting glimpses of a man, tall and lean, with long, dark hair and a weathered face, standing among the roots or gliding along the perimeter of the clearing. The figure is always indistinct, blurred at the edges, as if caught between this world and another. Some claim to have seen him reach for the chains, attempting to free himself, only to vanish when attention is focused directly on him. Others report feeling a sudden brush of cold air against their skin or the tug of an invisible hand, brief but startling, leaving a sense of being touched by a presence unseen. Photographers and paranormal enthusiasts are drawn to the ghost tree, hoping to capture tangible proof of its haunted reputation. Many report that cameras fail or images come out blurred, the figure of the pirate barely visible or obscured by shadows. Audio recordings often pick up chains dragging, low murmurs, or indistinct whispers that cannot be attributed to wind or wildlife. Some thermographic equipment has detected sudden cold spots near the base of the tree, while motion sensors register movement when no one is present. These findings seem to confirm the idea that the ghost tree is more than just a cursed tree, is a nexus of lingering energy, a place where the past refuses to stay buried. Despite its dark and haunting reputation, the ghost tree remains a place of fascination. Some visitors come out of respect, leaving small tokens, a coin, a flower, or a note acknowledging the pirate's story and the betrayal that bound his spirit. Others come seeking thrill or proof of the supernatural, hoping to witness the glowing light or hear the dragging chains themselves. Yet nearly every visitor leaves with an indelible sense of unease, a lingering impression that they have stepped into a place where history, violence, and restless spirits intersect. The tree's twisted limbs, devoid of leaves, contribute to its spectral aura. The shadows cast by its branches at night seem alive, bending and shifting with a motion that is almost imperceptible, yet deeply unsettling. Some say the branches appear to reach out, as if attempting to grasp the living or to mimic the pirate's desperate struggle. On stormy nights, lightning illuminates the tree in brief, violent flashes, revealing the gnarled form in stark relief and leaving witnesses with a vision that lingers in memory long after the storm has passed. The ghost tree of Key West is more than a natural landmark. It is a sentinel of memory and vengeance. It stands as a testament to betrayal, a monument to a life ended too soon and unfairly, and as a reminder that some actions leave echoes that endure far beyond the mortal world. Those who approach under the pale glow of the moon may hear the chains, see the shadowed figure, or feel the weight of history pressing down. The tree's presence is subtle, yet unshakable, a chilling reminder that the past is never truly gone, and that some spirits will not rest until their story is known. In the historic streets of St. Augustine, Florida, where centuries of history cling to every cobblestone and faded brick, there stands a tree that has long captured the imagination of locals and visitors alike. Known as the widow's tree, this ancient oak rises alone in a small, shaded courtyard, its sprawling limbs heavy with Spanish moss that sways gently in the coastal breeze. Unlike the vibrant oaks and palms that populate the city, the widow's tree carries an air of melancholy, a quiet sorrow that hangs over it like a shroud. Its presence is subtle, yet unmistakable, a sentinel that guards both memory and grief. The story of the widow's tree dates back to the early 19th century, a time when St. Augustine thrived as a bustling port city. Ships came and went from the harbor, carrying merchants, travelers, and sailors to distant lands. Among those who set sail was a young mariner, a devoted husband whose journeys often kept him at sea for months at a time. His wife, known for her gentle nature and unwavering devotion, would wait for his return beneath the branches of what would later be called the widow's tree. Day after day, she would watch the horizon from the courtyard, eyes fixed on the waters that carried her beloved farther from her reach. Tragically, the mariner never returned. Accounts differ on the circumstances, some claiming that his ship was lost in a storm, others suggesting pirates or misfortune at sea. Whatever the truth, the news reached the widow slowly, delivered by a passing traveler or a distant relative. When the finality of her husband's fate became known, she succumbed to grief so profound that her heart could bear no more. She was found beneath the very tree where she had spent countless hours waiting, her body lifeless but her devotion eternal. The community buried her there, beneath the roots of the oak, believing that her love and sorrow had fused with the tree itself. Over the decades, the widow's tree has become a locus for reports of the supernatural. Visitors to the courtyard speak of sudden chills that descend when they stand beneath its boughs, even on warm, humid days. Some describe the sensation as a pressure on the shoulders, a heaviness in the chest, as if the air itself mourns the woman's loss. The effect is subtle but undeniable, leaving those nearby with a lingering sense of unease and reflection. A reminder that some grief is too deep to fade with time. At dusk, the tree's presence becomes even more pronounced. Shadows stretch long across the courtyard, merging with the moss-draped limbs to create shapes that seem almost human. Witnesses often report hearing soft, sorrowful sobbing emanating from the direction of the tree, a sound that rises and falls with the wind. At first, it is faint, easily mistaken for the rustle of leaves or distant voices from the city streets. But for those who pause and listen, the cries take on a distinct rhythm, as though the widow herself is lamenting beneath the moonlight, calling out to a husband she will never see again. Shadowy figures are occasionally glimpsed near the tree. People walking through the courtyard at twilight have described seeing a faint, feminine form, standing quietly among the roots or leaning against the trunk. Her outline is delicate, draped in what appears to be a flowing gown, though details are always hazy, as if memory and vision blur in her presence. She does not approach or speak, yet her presence is unmistakable, leaving an impression of profound sadness. When one attempts to step closer, the figure seems to dissipate into the mist or darkness, leaving only the sound of rustling leaves and the echo of soft sobs behind. The widow's tree has also drawn the attention of those interested in the paranormal. Photographers have captured unusual orbs of light around the trunk, while audio recorders occasionally pick up indistinct whispers that cannot be attributed to wind or passing pedestrians. Even thermographic readings reveal sudden pockets of cold air that appear and disappear without explanation. These phenomena reinforce the belief that the tree is more than just a silent observer of history. It is a vessel, holding within it the sorrow and longing of a life interrupted and a love left unfulfilled. Visitors often leave tokens beneath the tree, small symbols of respect for the woman said to linger there. A single flower, a folded note, or even a small trinket left on the ground is believed to honor her memory, acknowledging both her devotion and her grief. Some locals swear that leaving such tokens brings a sense of calm or blessing, while ignoring the tree is said to invite an inexplicable feeling of unease. The widow's tree, it seems, demands acknowledgement, quietly reminding the living of the lives and emotions it harbors. The tree's appearance reinforces its spectral aura. Its bark is dark and deeply grooved, the branches twisting like skeletal arms reaching skyward. The Spanish moss that hangs from its limbs creates moving shadows that seem to sway with purpose, forming shapes that resemble figures, kneeling or reaching out. Even during the day, the interplay of light and shadow lends the tree a sense of motion, as if it breathes alongside the emotions it embodies. At night, under the glow of the moon, the widow's tree transforms into a place where history, grief, and the supernatural intersect. In St. Augustine, the widow's tree stands as a quiet monument to love, loss, and devotion. It is a place where the past refuses to fade, where sorrow lingers in the air and whispers through the rustling leaves. Those who stand beneath its sprawling limbs may hear the soft sobs, feel the chilling presence, or glimpse the shadowy figure of the widow herself. The tree reminds all who encounter it that some stories are eternal, that the weight of love and grief can bind a soul to a single place, and that even centuries later, the echoes of a broken heart can still be felt. On the northern tip of Amelia Island, Florida, there stands a massive oak known as the pirate's tree, a sentinel that has watched over centuries of history, storms, and secrets. Its gnarled trunk rises wide and imposing, twisted branches spreading outward like the arms of a giant, reaching for the sky and casting deep, shifting shadows across the ground. Draped in heavy Spanish moss, the tree has an almost spectral presence, its silhouette jagged and unsettling against the coastal sky. To the casual observer, it is simply an ancient oak. Yet for those who know its legend, the pirate's tree is a place where history, mystery, and the supernatural intertwine, a site said to be haunted, cursed, and forever guarding a hidden treasure. The origins of the pirate's tree's dark reputation reach back to the golden age of piracy in the early 18th century. Amelia Island, with its dense forests, hidden inlets, and proximity to trade routes, was a haven for pirates seeking refuge or plunder. According to local lore, a notorious band of pirates once used the massive oak as a burial site for their treasure, hiding chests of gold, silver, and valuable trinkets beneath its roots. They were cunning men, knowing the land and the tides, and legend holds that they performed rituals to ensure that their treasure would remain protected long after they were gone. Some say that when the last pirate buried his chest beneath the tree, he bound his spirit and the spirits of his companions to the site, creating a supernatural guard that would haunt any who dared disturb their wealth. Visitors to the pirate's tree often report an immediate sense of unease. Even during the day, the air near the tree feels heavier, charged with an invisible energy that presses against the chest and tingles on the skin. A subtle stillness hangs over the surrounding clearing, as though the forest itself pauses in reverence or warning. Many who approach the tree describe feeling watched. Some report hearing soft whispers, indistinct and fleeting, carried on the wind, as though the pirate spirits are speaking to one another or issuing a warning to intruders. At night, the tree's haunting presence becomes more pronounced. Shadows stretch across the clearing, twisting unnaturally under the moonlight. Some who have visited after dusk claim to see figures moving among the roots and branches in distinct shapes that appear humanoid, yet shimmer or blur as if between worlds. These figures are often described as wearing tattered coats or tricorn hats, the traditional garb of pirates, and they seem to patrol the area, moving with purpose as if ensuring that the treasure remains undisturbed. Visitors have reported sudden drops in temperature beneath the tree, their breath visible in the air despite warm nights, and fleeting touches of icy hands brushing against clothing or arms. Many stories tell of those who have dared to dig beneath the pirate's tree. Some were treasure hunters, hopeful and ambitious, while others were curious locals testing the legend. All, according to the tales, experienced misfortune. Shovels break inexplicably, hands are cut by unseen forces, or diggers are overcome by sudden illness or accidents. Those who abandon their efforts speak of feeling an oppressive weight, lift only after leaving the area, as though the tree and the spirits bound to it have judged their intentions. Some locals insist that the curse is real, a protective force ensuring that the pirate treasure remains hidden, while others believe it is the collective fear and stories passed down through generations that heighten the sense of danger. The pirate's tree has also drawn the attention of paranormal investigators. Cameras often fail to function properly near the trunk, producing blurred or distorted images. Audio recordings sometimes capture whispers, footsteps, or even the faint jingle of coins and chains, sounds that cannot be attributed to wind or wildlife. Motion sensors occasionally detect movement when no one is present, and thermographic readings show pockets of cold air that seem to gather around the base of the tree. These findings, whether interpreted as proof of haunting or the power of legend, reinforce the sense that the pirate tree is a place where the line between the living and the spectral is thin, and that the spirits of long-dead pirates may still walk among the roots and branches. The physical form of the tree adds to its unsettling presence. The trunk is wide, with deep fissures and knots that resemble hollow eyes watching the clearing. Its twisted limbs bend in jagged, unpredictable directions, some brushing the ground like skeletal fingers, others clawing toward the sky. The Spanish moss hanging from its branches casts ever-shifting shadows that at night appear to move independently of the wind, forming shapes that resemble human figures, kneeling, reaching, or pacing. Some who linger under the tree report seeing these shadows mimic their movements, reflecting a presence that is both invisible and aware. Despite the legends and warnings, the pirate's tree remains a popular destination for visitors to Amelia Island. Some come to honor its history, leaving coins, trinkets, or notes beneath the roots as a gesture of respect. Others come seeking the thrill of the unknown, hoping to witness the glowing shadows, hear the whispers, or catch a glimpse of a pirate figure patrolling the clearing. Yet almost all leave with a lingering sense of unease, a recognition that the tree is more than a natural landmark. It is a guardian of memory, greed, and betrayal. And its watchful presence ensures that the story of the pirates and their hidden treasure will never be forgotten. In the heart of Sarasota, Florida, a sprawling banyan tree stands as both a natural wonder and a source of local legend. Its thick, twisting roots form a dense lattice that rises from the earth and arches back down, creating natural tunnels and shadows that shift with the sun and moon. Draped in moss and surrounded by lush greenery, the tree is impressive by day, drawing visitors for its unique architecture and shade. But as night falls, the banyan reveals a far darker side. Locals know it as the haunted banyan, a site where whispers of injustice, sorrow, and restless spirits linger, and where even the bravest feel a chill that cannot be explained. The story behind the haunted banyan dates back over a century. According to legend, a young woman was accused of a crime she did not commit, a theft or a murder. The details vary depending on who tells the tale. Despite evidence of her innocence, the local authorities of the time convicted her, and she was publicly executed near the tree. Her final moments were filled with despair, but also with anger and a profound sense of injustice. As the story goes, she swore that the world would never forget the wrong done to her, that her spirit would linger until her name was cleared and her suffering acknowledged. The banyan, already vast and commanding, became the place where her anguish took root, entwining with the twisted branches and shadowed hollows of the tree. Visitors to the haunted banyan often report an immediate sense of unease, even before they realize why. The tree exudes an aura of stillness, as though the air itself is heavy with grief. On warm Florida days, a sudden icy breeze sometimes sweeps through the area, brushing against the skin with a sharp, unnatural cold. Many describe feeling watched, a presence hovering just beyond perception, or glimpses of movement that cannot be explained by wind or wildlife. At night, the tree becomes a focal point for ghostly phenomena. Local residents have described seeing the apparition of a woman, gliding silently among the banyan's twisting roots and hanging limbs. Her form is often described as translucent, her clothing flowing like mist, her hair moving as though caught in a wind that others cannot feel. Sometimes she appears at the edges of the tree's shadow, vanishing when approached directly, leaving only the sensation that someone or something is still present. On certain nights, when the moonlight filters through the canopy, just so, her outline seems to glow faintly, a spectral silhouette against the tangled roots and moss. Auditory phenomena accompany visual sightings. Some visitors report hearing whispers, indistinct but persistent, seeming to drift from within the tree itself. The words are rarely coherent, often described as fragments of sentences or a soft moan that carries a deep sorrow. Those who linger near the tree often feel a pressure in the chest, a sense that the woman's anguish is pressing outward, seeking acknowledgement or consolation. A few claim to have heard footsteps pacing near the roots, or the rustle of unseen clothing brushing against the ground, as if the spirit is walking among them. The haunted banyan also has a reputation for affecting those who approach with ill intent. People who have tried to vandalize or disturb the area report sudden accidents or overwhelming fear that drives them away. Some say that attempts to harm the tree or to disrespect the memory of the woman are met with an icy gust or the feeling of an unseen hand, gentle but firm, pushing intruders back. Locals take this as evidence that the spirit of the wrongfully executed woman is protective of her resting place, and that the banyan itself is a vessel of her enduring presence. Over the decades, the tree has become a site of fascination for both tourists and paranormal enthusiasts. Cameras have produced strange orbs of light hovering near the roots. Audio recorders capture murmurs that cannot be explained, and thermographic devices detect sudden cold spots around the tree's base. Even those with no belief in the supernatural have felt the prickling of unease when standing beneath its dense canopy. Visitors often leave small offerings, flowers, coins, or notes, hoping to honor the memory of the woman and her unjust fate. Many swear that leaving such items brings a feeling of peace or a subtle sense of warmth, as though the spirit is acknowledging the gesture. The tree itself seems to respond to the presence of people. Its aerial roots sway as if moved by invisible hands, and shadows among the trunk and branches appear to shift independently of the wind. Photographers have reported faint images of a woman in flowing garments among the roots, sometimes captured in a single frame, only to disappear in subsequent shots. Those who linger beneath the tree at night describe a strange interplay of fear and fascination. The boundary between history and the supernatural almost imperceptibly thin, deep in the heart of the Florida Everglades, where waterways twist like veins through thick mangroves and the air hangs heavy with humidity. There stands a tree unlike any other. Locals call it the bloodwood tree, a massive specimen with bark tinged a deep, almost unnatural red that glows faintly under the filtered light of the swamp. Its roots twist and coil above the water, reaching into the marsh like gnarled fingers, and its canopy stretches wide, shading the surrounding wetlands. To those who have ventured near, the tree exudes a presence both commanding and sinister, as if the land itself remembers the horrors that unfolded beneath its branches. The legend of the bloodwood tree dates back more than a century. Stories tell of a violent massacre that occurred in the area, though details vary depending on the teller. Some say it involved settlers and indigenous people clashing over territory, while others speak of bandits ambushing a traveling group of traders, their lives ending in a brutal, bloody scene. Whatever the truth, the common thread is the immense violence that once stained the ground near the tree. And locals believe the red hue of its bark is a permanent reminder, an eerie reflection of the blood spilled beneath it. Visitors to the bloodwood tree often describe an immediate sense of foreboding, a heavy weight in the air that presses against the chest and makes every step feel uncertain. Even during the daylight hours, there is a palpable tension in the surroundings, a subtle rustling of leaves that seems out of sync with the wind. Many report hearing faint whispers carried across the swamp, voices that rise and fall like echoes of screams long past. The farther one ventures toward the tree, the colder the air becomes, and some claim to feel invisible fingers grazing their shoulders or ankles, as if unseen entities are warning them to turn back. At dusk, the tree's sinister reputation becomes more pronounced. The red bark, already striking in daylight, takes on a darker, almost glowing appearance, a hue that seems unnatural against the swampy backdrop. Shadows stretch long and warp across the marsh, creating shapes that appear to move independently. Travelers have reported seeing figures lingering among the roots or just beyond the tree's trunk, vague silhouettes that vanish when approached. Some say they glimpse faces in the knots of the bark, twisted and screaming silently, as if the tree itself holds the memories of the massacre. The auditory phenomena near the bloodwood tree are equally chilling. On still evenings, many swear they can hear the sounds of struggle, the clash of weapons, the cries of the dying, and the anguished wails of victims. These noises are faint, often indistinct, yet unmistakable to those who pause and listen. A sudden scream can sometimes rise above the ambient swamp sounds, startling even experienced hikers or guides. Some claim that the tree amplifies these echoes, turning the swamp into a living memory of horror that refuses to fade with time. There are reports of physical sensations that accompany encounters with the tree. Hikers and adventurers describe a sudden chill that creeps up the spine, a tightening in the chest, and a deep, unshakable dread. Some feel a pressure on their shoulders, as though unseen hands are leaning down upon them, or sense a weight beneath their feet. The soil itself seemingly heavy with sorrow and rage. Those who linger too long often report a compulsion to leave quickly, a gut instinct that something unseen is observing them, waiting. The bloodwood tree has also attracted the attention of paranormal enthusiasts. Cameras frequently capture strange orbs of light floating near the trunk or among the roots, and audio recordings often reveal unexplained whispers, distant screams, or indistinct murmurs. Motion sensors sometimes detect movement when no one is present, and thermographic readings show sudden pockets of cold air concentrated around the tree's base. These phenomena, whether interpreted as spiritual remnants or the power of legend, reinforce the idea that the bloodwood tree is a place where the boundary between the living and the dead is thin, where the horrors of the past continue to echo through the present. Despite its fearsome reputation, the bloodwood tree continues to draw visitors, some out of curiosity, others seeking to test the legend. Small offerings are sometimes left near the roots, a coin, a flower, or a token meant to honor the victims and show respect for the spirits said to linger there. Many swear that acknowledging the tree in this way brings a moment of calm, a subtle sense that the restless souls are appeased, however temporarily. Ignoring the tree, or attempting to disturb the area, is widely believed to invite misfortune, accidents, or a deep sense of unease that follows long after leaving the swamp. The tree's twisted, blood-colored bark and the sprawling, almost claw-like roots create an atmosphere that is impossible to ignore. Branches bend and twist above the water, casting jagged shadows that appear alive as the sun sets and the moon rises. On stormy nights, lightning flashes illuminates a tree in stark, violent bursts, revealing its full, twisted form and leaving a lingering impression on anyone fortunate or unfortunate enough to witness it. The interplay of shadow, light, and legend turns the bloodwood tree into a living symbol of tragedy, memory, and lingering spiritual unrest. In the vast expanse of Ocala National Forest, where the air is thick with the scent of pine and the ground is carpeted with needles and moss, stands a tree that locals have long whispered about. Known as the Whispering Pine, it is a towering giant that rises above the surrounding canopy. Its bark, rough and gnarled, its branches spread wide like the arms of some ancient sentinel. To an unsuspecting hiker, it may seem like any other tree, but those who linger near it after dusk know there is something profoundly unsettling about it. For as long as anyone can remember, the Whispering Pine has been associated with strange sounds carried on the breeze. At first, they seem like nothing more than the wind rustling through the branches, a soft and constant murmur that blends with the forest's natural chorus. But as the listener grows still and attentive, the noises take on a shape more deliberate, like voices whispering just beyond the range of comprehension. Some hear single words, others entire phrases, faint and fragmented, as though carried from another world. To many, it feels as if the voices are not simply random, but calling directly to them, coaxing, luring, or sometimes warning. The origins of these whispers are the subject of countless legends. Some say the pine stands as a marker of tragedy. That long ago, a group of pioneers perished in the surrounding forest, their souls never finding rest. Others believe the whispers belong to lost hikers, men and women who vanished in the woods over the decades, swallowed by the endless greenery and never seen again. A few insist that the Whispering Pine itself is alive in a way no tree should be, not merely a plant, but a vessel for something ancient, feeding on grief, fear, and loss. Hikers who stumble across the tree often describe an immediate change in atmosphere. The forest, normally filled with birdsong and the rustling of small animals, falls into silence as they approach. The air grows cooler, the light dimmer, even when the sun still burns bright above the canopy. Then comes the sound of faint murmuring from high among the branches, carrying the cadence of human speech. At first, the mind wants to explain it away, to rationalize it as wind, insects, or the trick of leaves brushing together. But the longer one listens, the clearer the whispers become, unmistakably human, layered and overlapping, as though dozens of unseen voices are speaking all at once. There are stories of travelers who followed those voices deeper into the woods, compelled by something they could not explain. One man claimed the whispers began to call his name, drawing him away from the marked trail and into the heart of the forest. Hours later, he found himself standing before a marsh, disoriented and chilled to the bone, the whispers echoing in his ears. Only when he turned back did he realize how far he had strayed, the pine now just a distant silhouette against the sky. He swore he had walked in a straight line, yet his compass spun wildly, and the journey back to the main trail took twice as long. Hunters, too, have their accounts. One spoke of camping near the tree one autumn night, only to awaken to the sound of a woman softly weeping. When he rose to investigate, he found no one there. But the crying continued, floating just above his head, like a mournful breeze. Another hunter described hearing laughter, sharp and cruel, coming from the branches. The next morning, he discovered his gear scattered and torn as if by unseen hands, though no animals had passed through the area. Perhaps the most chilling tales are those of hikers who claim to have seen figures near the tree. Dark, indistinct shapes move between the branches, sometimes crouched low among the roots, other times swaying above as though suspended by invisible cords. Some describe pale faces peering out from the bark, their mouths moving in silent sync with the whispers. These visions vanish in the blink of an eye, leaving behind only the restless murmurs of the forest. Local folklore holds that the whispering pine is cursed, and those who linger too long beneath it risk becoming part of the chorus themselves. The voices, people say, belong to the lost souls drawn into the tree's presence, absorbed into its roots, and trapped forever. Each new disappearance adds to the voices, strengthening the tree's eerie song. Some even claim to have recognized the voices of loved ones who had vanished in the forest years earlier, calling their names in tones both familiar and alien. Despite its reputation, the whispering pine continues to attract visitors. From thrill seekers, eager for a brush with the supernatural, to paranormal investigators, hoping to capture evidence of the phenomenon. Recordings made near the tree often pick up unexplained sounds, static bursts that resemble whispers, faint cries buried in the background, or low tones that rise and fall in unnatural patterns. Photographs frequently show strange distortions, streaks of light, misty shapes, or blurred shadows that cannot be explained by faulty equipment. But there are those who approach the tree with reverence, leaving offerings of flowers, coins, or small trinkets at its base. These people believe that the voices are not malevolent but mournful, the lingering echoes of those who wish to be remembered. To them, the whispering pine is not merely a place of fear, but a monument to lives lost, a reminder that the forest is both beautiful and perilous, holding secrets that resist human understanding. Standing alone among the countless trees of Ocala National Forest, the whispering pine is a paradox. It is both ordinary and extraordinary, a living reminder that the natural world holds mysteries beyond reason. To some, it is a warning, urging caution in the wild places where humans tread lightly. To others, it is an invitation, beckoning the curious closer with its strange, mournful song. And to all who have heard it, the memory of those voices never truly fades. The whispers linger, etched into the mind, haunting long after the forest is left behind. In Jacksonville, hidden in a quiet stretch of land where the city gives way to overgrown patches of forest, there stands a cedar tree that few dare to approach. Its branches twist into unnatural shapes, casting long shadows even under the midday sun. To the unknowing passerby, it might seem like an old, weathered tree, but to the locals, it has earned a far darker reputation. They call it the cursed cedar. Legends surrounding the cedar stretch back for generations. with stories of misfortune befalling anyone bold enough to harm it. Some claim that the tree was once planted on sacred ground, a place tied to ancient rituals and bloodshed. Others whisper that the cedar absorbed a terrible event, perhaps a violent crime or betrayal that left its roots forever tainted. Whatever its origin, the belief persists that the cedar is no ordinary tree, but a vessel of something malignant. The most chilling part of the legend is the curse itself. Locals insist that anyone who attempts to cut down the tree, or even damage it, will face swift retribution. Tales from the 1800s speak of a logger who once tried to fell the cedar, eager to claim its strong wood. He was later found lifeless at its base, his axe split in two, though there was no sign of injury. More recent stories echo the same pattern. A construction worker injured in a freak accident after marking the cedar for removal. A teenager falling mysteriously ill after carving his initials into the bark. And even motorists who swerved and crashed after throwing bottles at the tree. Yet the curse seems to extend beyond direct harm. People who merely linger too long in its shadow describe unsettling encounters. At dusk, shadowy figures have been reported drifting among the tree's branches. Some appear as tall, human-like silhouettes, while others are less defined, as if they are pieces of darkness peeled away from the night itself. Those who see them often describe the same reaction, a rush of dread so strong it feels almost physical, urging them to leave at once. The footsteps are another common phenomenon tied to the cedar. Walkers claim to hear them circling the trees low, deliberate, and heavy, as if someone is pacing unseen. The sound follows those who try to pass by, keeping time with their steps until they clear the area. On windless nights, the footsteps are said to grow louder, pressing close enough that some have fled in panic, swearing they could feel a presence just at their back. Paranormal enthusiasts have tried to study the tree, but their equipment rarely cooperates. Cameras lose focus when aimed at it, audio recordings fill with static, and devices shut down inexplicably. A few investigators claim to capture whispers buried in the static fragments of words that sound like warnings, though never clear enough to fully understand. One group reported that the temperature around the cedar dropped suddenly, chilling the air until they could see their breath despite the Florida heat. None stayed long. The cedar's bark itself seems to tell a story. Weathered ridges sometimes take on shapes that resemble human faces grimacing, weeping, or staring wide-eyed in silent screams. Many dismiss it as coincidence, patterns formed by nature, but those who believe in the curse say the faces belong to the souls trapped within, guardians of the tree's dark secret. Over time, the cursed cedar has become a place of both fear and fascination. Some avoid it altogether, crossing the street rather than pass too close. Others, particularly thrill-seekers, approach it as a dare, testing whether the stories are true. They press their palms to the bark, carve small marks, or linger beneath its canopy, waiting for footsteps or shadows. While few admit to lasting harm, nearly all describe an oppressive sensation, a weight in the air, a chill that crawls along the spine, or the feeling of being watched by unseen eyes. Despite countless opportunities, no one has managed to cut the cedar down. Each attempt ends in accidents, bad luck, or outright refusal. It stands alone, surrounded by both fear and respect, a relic that endures not because people want it there, but because they are too afraid to remove it. The cursed cedar has become part of Jacksonville's folklore, a silent reminder that some places hold on to their secrets too tightly to be forgotten. Whether it is truly cursed or simply a tree wrapped in stories and superstition, its reputation continues to grow. For those who walk past it at night, hearing footsteps in the stillness or catching sight of a shadow that does not belong, the question no longer matters. The cedar is more than wood, and roots it is a legend rooted in fear, and it watches still. In the heart of Gainesville, where the streets weave between old neighborhoods and college town bustle, there stands a tree that locals speak of only in hushed tones. It is massive, a sprawling oak with limbs that stretch outward like ancient arms. Its bark is cracked and darkened with age, and its shadow falls across the ground like a shroud. This tree is known as the phantom oak. And while to some it may appear to be nothing more than a relic of the natural world, to others it is a reminder of tragedy. and a place where the past refuses to let go. The origins of the phantom oak's reputation go back more than a century. Stories tell of a man who was hanged from its strongest branch. His life ended beneath its canopy. The reasons for his death vary depending on who tells the tale. Some say he was a criminal, condemned for a violent crime, while others insist he was an innocent man, the victim of vigilante justice. There are whispers that it was neither trial nor a mob, but his own hand, that he chose the tree as the place to end his sorrow. Whatever the truth, one detail never changes. His spirit never left. As the years passed, the phantom oak became the center of countless ghostly reports. Visitors who wandered near it after dark often claimed to see the figure of a man suspended from its branches, his body swaying gently in the breeze, even on nights when the air was perfectly still. Some said his head lolled unnaturally to one side, while others described the faint glimmer of rope against the starlight. By the time they looked again, the figure would vanish, leaving nothing but the rustle of leaves above them. One of the earliest written accounts came from the 1920s, when a farmer walking home claimed to see the hanged man clearly, his boots brushing the air a few feet above the ground. The farmer hurried away, shaken. And when he returned with companions, the tree stood empty. Yet they swore they could still hear the faint sound of rope creaking, as though under the weight of something unseen. That sound, witnesses say, continues to echo around the phantom oak, a slow, rhythmic groan carried on the wind. But it is not only the image of the hanged man that unsettles visitors. Many who have stood beneath the oak claim to feel a sudden chill, as though the warmth is pulled straight from their skin. Some describe the sensation of being watched, the heavy weight of unseen eyes pressing down from the branches above. A few even report feeling the brush of something against their necks, light as rope fibers, though nothing is there. The phantom oak has also been tied to strange sounds. Footsteps are often heard, circling the tree at night, crunching on leaves, though no figure can be found. Whispers rise and fall in the air, just beyond comprehension, like a voice trying to reach across time. On certain nights, the sound of sobbing has been reported, broken weeping that seems to come from the base of the tree. Some say it is the sorrow of the man himself, while others believe it is the grief of those who watched him die. Not all encounters are fleeting glimpses or eerie sensations. There are those who claim to have seen the figure up close. A group of students in the 1980s told of daring each other to approach the oak at midnight. They said the figure of the man appeared suddenly, swinging just a few feet from them, his face obscured by shadow. One of them insisted that the man's eyes glowed faintly in the dark, hollow and lifeless, yet fixed on the living. The group fled in terror, and years later, some still refused to speak of what they had seen. The legend of the phantom oak has only grown with time. Paranormal investigators who have visited the site report strange anomalies, cold spots that appear without warning, photographs with streaks of light or faint shapes in the branches, and unexplained malfunctions of cameras and recorders. Some claim to have captured the sound of rope tightening, a sharp snap, and the final gasping breaths of a man. Despite its reputation, the oak remains standing, its roots deep in the soil of Gainesville, its branches stretching ever higher. Some believe it thrives because of the energy bound to it, fed by fear, curiosity, and tragedy. Others say cutting it down would only release what lingers there, loosing it upon the world in a more dangerous form. For this reason, the phantom oak has been left untouched, its legend preserved in both story and superstition. For locals, it is a place to avoid after dark, a landmark spoken of with a mix of dread and fascination. Parents warn their children not to wander too close, while thrill-seekers dare one another to stand beneath it at midnight. Some leave small offerings at its base, coins, candles, or tokens of respect as if to appease the spirit that lingers there. Whether these gestures are acts of fear or reverence, they reveal a truth. No one sees the phantom oak as just another tree. It is a reminder of mortality, of sorrow, and of the shadows that cling to the past. It stands as both a monument and a prison, holding within its bark the echo of a death that refuses to fade. To see the phantom oak is to feel the weight of history pressing in, to stand in the presence of something not quite living, yet not entirely gone. In Tampa, there is a willow tree that has become the subject of whispered tales and uneasy glances. Locals call it the mourning willow, a towering, weeping willow that bends gracefully over the edge of a small cemetery. By day, its drooping branches sway gently in the breeze, a picturesque marker of age and resilience. But by night, when the air grows heavy and the silence of the cemetery deepens, the tree takes on a more sinister air. Its branches hang low, like the arms of a mourner, cloaking the ground beneath it in a curtain of shadows. The legend of the mourning willow begins with a woman whose name has been lost to history, remembered only as the grieving widow. She is said to have lived during the late 1800s, a time when Tampa was still growing from a rugged frontier town into the bustling city it would become. Her husband, a sailor, never returned from sea. Some say his ship was swallowed in a storm, others that he fell victim to pirates. Whatever the truth, the widow spent her days pacing the cemetery where his empty grave was marked, waiting and weeping for the man who would never come home. The sorrow eventually consumed her. Unable to move on, she returned each evening to the same willow tree at the edge of the cemetery. She would rest against its trunk and weep until dawn. One night, she simply never left. Her body was found at the base of the tree, her arms wrapped around it as if it were the last embrace she would ever give. From that day forward, the tree became known as the mourning willow, and locals began to say her spirit had merged with its roots. What makes the mourning willow so unsettling is not just its tragic story, but the strange phenomena that surround it. Visitors to the cemetery often describe hearing soft crying carried through the branches, even when no one else is around. The sound is not loud or sharp, but faint and heartbreaking, like the suppressed sobs of a woman trying not to be heard. Some who linger beneath the tree claim the sound grows clearer, until it feels as though someone is weeping just over their shoulder. Others report physical sensations near the tree. The air beneath its drooping limbs is said to grow inexplicably cold, even in the sweltering heat of a Tampa summer. The branches often move when no wind is present, swaying gently as though stroked by invisible hands. A few visitors have described the distinct feeling of fingers brushing against their skin, light and fleeting, like a ghostly caress. Those who experience this say it comes with an overwhelming rush of sorrow, leaving them shaken long after they leave the cemetery. There are also stories of sightings. At dusk or under the light of the full moon, a figure has been spotted among the willow's branches. Witnesses describe a pale woman in tattered clothing, her face obscured by long hair. She does not speak or approach, but appears to sway in time with the tree, as though she and the willow are bound together. Some believe this is the widow herself, still unable to rest, her spirit entwined with the tree she clung to in life. One particularly chilling story comes from a caretaker who worked at the cemetery in the 1950s. He claimed that during his nightly rounds, he often heard crying near the willow. One evening, determined to catch whoever was trespassing, he approached the tree. As he drew near, the crying grew louder, clearer, until he was certain he would find someone kneeling at its base. But when he stepped beneath the branches, the sound stopped instantly, leaving only silence and the feeling of unseen eyes watching him. He never investigated the tree again. Some visitors also report that the willow seems to react to their emotions. Those who come burdened with grief or sadness claim the tree's atmosphere becomes heavier, the cries louder, as though the widow's spirit recognizes and amplifies their pain. Conversely, those who approach with mockery or disrespect often leave unsettled. They describe branches snapping down suddenly, as if trying to strike them, or hearing whispers carried on the air that sound like a warning. Over the years, paranormal investigators have attempted to capture evidence of the mourning willow's haunting. Audio recordings often pick up unexplained sobbing or whispers, while photographs taken at night sometimes reveal faint outlines of a figure beneath the branches. Equipment frequently malfunctions near the tree, batteries draining without explanation, cameras refusing to focus, and thermal imaging showing inexplicable cold spots. Despite its reputation, the mourning willow has become a place of pilgrimage for those drawn to the supernatural. Some visit out of curiosity, others out of respect, leaving flowers or tokens at its roots as though offering comfort to the grieving widow. A few even claim that confiding their sorrows to the tree brings them a strange sense of release, as if the spirit listens and shares their pain. Still, the majority of Tampa's locals avoid the tree after dark. Its reputation as a place of sorrow, where the cries of a long-dead woman echo through the night, is enough to keep most away. For those who believe the legend, the mourning willow is more than a tree, it is a living monument to grief. A reminder that some sorrow is too deep to fade, even in death. In Panama City, set upon a low, lonely hill, stands a solitary pine, known as the phantom pine. To anyone passing by in the daylight, it might appear unremarkable. A tall, weathered tree, its needles whispering with the breeze, its silhouette casting a spindly shadow across the ground. But to the locals, to those who know the stories, it is no ordinary tree, a tale that has kept this hill shrouded in mystery for generations. The phantom pine, they say, marks the place where a soldier drew his last breath. The details of the battle differ, depending on who tells the story. Some say it was during the Civil War, when Union and Confederate skirmishes left hidden scars across Florida's landscape. Others whisper it was later, during the Second World War, when training maneuvers in the region turned tragic. But the consistent thread in every telling is that a young soldier met his end beneath this tree, alone and far from home, and his spirit never left. According to legend, the soldier was mortally wounded and crawled to the shade of the pine. There, beneath its branches, he collapsed, clutching the soil, his lifeblood staining the ground. Some claim he called out for his comrades, others that he whispered for his mother, but no one came. He died in silence, the tree his only witness. When his body was eventually discovered, it was said that his eyes were still open, staring into the canopy above, as though the pine itself had been the last thing he saw. From that day on, the hill and its lone pine were avoided. Farmers who tried to clear the land said their tools broke, their animals refused to graze, and their children cried inconsolably. Whenever they neared the tree, hikers who have dared to approach it report feeling a sudden, unnatural chill, even on the hottest Florida afternoons, when the air itself seems to shimmer with heat. The temperature drops abruptly, the kind of chill that raises goose flesh and stiffens the air in your lungs. More unnerving still are the sounds. Countless visitors have claimed to hear footsteps following them as they circle the tree, not the soft rustle of pine needles or the shifting of loose soil, but the distinct sound of boots treading close behind, heavy, deliberate, keeping pace with their own. When they turn, the hill is empty. No figure approaches, no animal lurks. Only the phantom pine stands, silent and watchful. At night, the stories grow darker. Some have spoken of seeing a shadowy figure leaning against the trunk, his head bowed, his form draped in the outline of a soldier's uniform. Others describe a faint glow that emanates from the tree itself, as though the soldier's restless spirit flickers through its branches. On moonlit nights, hikers have reported seeing what looks like a man pacing around the tree, only to vanish when they draw closer, leaving the sound of boots crunching on dirt echoing long after the figure is gone. The tree's reputation as haunted has made it a magnet for thrill-seekers and paranormal investigators. Some bring recording equipment, hoping to capture the sounds of footsteps or disembodied voices. More often than not, what they bring back are muffled whispers, unintelligible but undeniably human. One investigator swore that while listening to her recording later, she could make out a single word, repeated in a strained, desperate tone. Stay. Local folklore suggests that the soldier is not merely lingering near the tree, but bound to it, his spirit tethered by the anguish of his final moments. Some believe the pine absorbed his pain as he died beneath its branches, making it not just a marker of his death, but a vessel for his unrest. To harm the tree, they say, is to provoke the soldier himself. There are accounts of those who tried to carve their initials into its bark, only to be plagued by nightmares of a faceless man marching toward them. A few even claim to have woken with the sound of bootsteps echoing in their bedrooms. Yet, not all the stories are fearful. A handful of visitors speak of feeling not dread, but sorrow near the phantom pine. They describe a weight pressing on their hearts, an aching sadness that wells up in their chest until they, too, feel like weeping. For them, the tree is not merely haunted but mournful, a reminder of a young man lost to violence, forever waiting for someone to acknowledge his suffering. Some leave offerings beneath its branches, flowers, military medals, handwritten notes of thanks. Those who do so often claim that the oppressive chill lessens, replaced by a quiet stillness, as if the spirit finds brief comfort in their gestures. Still, the majority of Panama City locals give the phantom pine a wide berth. Parents warn their children not to climb its branches, hikers avoid the hill at night, and drivers passing on nearby roads sometimes glance toward the tree, only to quickly avert their eyes. It has become more than just a landmark. It is a symbol of mystery, a quiet sentinel that holds the memory of one man's last moments. And so, the phantom pine stands, rooted in soil that holds both history and sorrow. Its branches sway in the breeze, but its legend hangs heavier than the air around it. Those who dare to climb the hill may find nothing more than an old pine tree, weathered by time. But for those who believe, and for those who have felt the chill, heard the footsteps, or glimpsed the shadow of a soldier in the night, the phantom pine remains a haunting reminder that not all spirits find peace, and not all trees stand alone. In Tallahassee, nestled at the edge of a quiet grove, stands a hemlock tree unlike any other in the region. Its dark, feathery branches droop low as if weighted by secrets, and its roots twist deep into the damp earth near a creek that has its own somber story. The tree is known by locals as the haunted hemlock, a place where whispers of tragedy and ghostly apparitions mingle with the sighing wind. The legend begins with the tale of a young girl who once lived nearby, generations ago, long before modern streets and homes spread across Tallahassee's green landscape. A family made their life on the edge of the creek. The daughter, said to be no more than 10 years old, would play along the water's edge, her laughter carrying through the trees as she skipped stones and collected flowers. But one summer evening, when the rains had swelled the stream into a rushing current, tragedy struck. The girl wandered too close to the water, slipped, and was carried away before anyone could reach her. Her lifeless body was later found caught against the roots of the hemlock tree. The family, stricken with grief, buried her nearby. Since that day, the tree has been forever linked to her untimely death, and it is said her spirit remains tethered to it, a restless echo of innocence lost. As years passed, the haunted hemlock became more than just a marker of sorrow. Visitors began to report strange occurrences whenever they neared the tree. On still nights, when the air is heavy and the forest silent, some claim to hear a faint sound of laughter weaving through the branches. Not the laughter of joy, but something faint and hollow, as though carried from a great distance. It drifts across the creek, wrapping itself around those who hear it, leaving them with chills crawling up their spine. Others speak of sightings, more unsettling. The ghost of the little girl is said to appear near the trunk of the hemlock, her hair dripping as though she had just emerged from the water. Her eyes, however, are the detail that none forget, hollow, dark voids that stare straight through anyone who dares to meet her gaze. She does not speak, but her presence alone is enough to drive some to flee in terror. Those who have encountered her often describe feeling rooted in place, their legs heavy, as though the tree itself refuses to let them leave. One man recounted that he went to investigate after hearing what he thought was a child's giggle by the creek. As he stepped closer, he saw her standing beneath the branches, one hand resting on the bark. She turned slowly to look at him, and the air grew icy cold. He swore he could see water dripping from her skin, though the ground beneath her was bone dry. He ran, but for days afterward he dreamed of her every night, waking to the sound of water rushing in his ears. Children in the area whispered their own versions of the story, daring one another to touch the tree at midnight, or to sit beneath it alone. Some returned shaken, claiming they felt a hand brush against theirs, even though no one was near. Others say they saw ripples move across the creek with no wind, as though something unseen was rising from the water to watch them. Folklore suggests the hemlock holds her spirit captive. Its roots, entwined with the place where her body was first discovered, seem to act as chains, keeping her from finding rest. Some locals believe that cutting the tree down would free her, but anyone who has spoken of such an act has been warned against it. To harm the haunted hemlock, they say, would be to invite misfortune. Stories circulate of hunters whose rifles jammed when they aimed at birds perched in its branches, or of lumbermen who broke their tools when attempting to cut even a small limb. Whether coincidence or curse, the belief remains firm. The tree is not to be touched, but the legend carries more than fear. It carries sorrow. Those who live nearby speak of the atmosphere around the hemlock as unbearably sad, as if the earth itself mourns the girl who died so young. Some who have stood there long enough claim they began to weep without knowing why, their own grief mingling with that of the child who lingers unseen. Even now, the haunted hemlock stands as a lonely sentinel, its branches casting long shadows over the creek where tragedy once unfolded. Travelers passing through Tallahassee sometimes stumble upon it, unaware of its reputation, only to leave unsettled, unable to explain the sudden unease that grips them. And for the locals, it remains a place both feared and respected, a reminder that not all spirits find peace, and that some stories linger, etched into the land itself. Those who have truly heard her laughter or seen her pale figure often find themselves changed. They speak less of fear and more of a lingering sadness, a sense that the girl is not malicious but lost, forever searching for the family who once called her name along the water's edge. Whether she seeks comfort or simply acknowledgement, the haunted hemlock ensures that her presence is never forgotten. In Orlando, away from the glittering lights and lively attractions, lies a quiet, almost forgotten park that holds a darker story. At the center of this secluded place stands the wailing willow, a tree with branches that droop so low they nearly brush the ground, creating a curtain of green that seems to shelter secrets of sorrow. Unlike the cheerful trees that line the city's bustling streets, this willow has a reputation steeped in tragedy, one that has made it a destination for those seeking to witness the paranormal. According to local legend, the story of the wailing willow began more than a century ago, when the land was not yet part of the thriving city, but was instead quiet countryside. A young woman lived nearby, her days filled with tending her small home and caring for her only child. She was known for her kindness and gentle voice, often singing lullabies beneath the willow's branches to soothe her baby to sleep. For a time, her life seemed peaceful, but fate dealt her a cruel blow. On one stormy night, tragedy struck. Accounts vary on what exactly happened, but most agree that the child wandered too close to the swollen river that once ran near the tree. The current was merciless, and despite the mother's desperate cries and frantic attempts to save her child, the river carried the little one away. By dawn, the water had calmed, but the mother's heart never would. Overcome with grief, she returned to the willow again and again, weeping beneath its branches, clutching the fabric of her child's clothing that was found caught in the roots by the water's edge. Locals said she wailed so often and with such anguish that even the tree itself seemed to weep with her, its branches drooping lower with each passing year. It wasn't long before her sorrow consumed her. Some say she could no longer bear the silence of her empty home and took her last breath beneath the willow. Others whisper she simply disappeared, her spirit fusing with the tree that had borne witness to her endless grief. Whatever the truth, the willow became forever associated with her cries, which gave rise to its name, the Wailing Willow. Over the decades, countless visitors have claimed strange experiences near the tree. Passersby have reported hearing the soft, mournful sobs of a woman when no one is around. The sound is described as faint at first, like a breeze through the branches, but soon grows louder, as if she is standing just behind them. Some claim they've seen a pale silhouette of a woman kneeling beneath the tree, her hair falling over her face as she rocks back and forth in grief. On rare occasions, people report seeing her rise and turn toward them, her hollow eyes staring as though searching desperately for the child she lost. Perhaps the most unsettling stories come from those who dare to linger after midnight. More than one visitor has sworn they felt the branches of the willow brush against them, though they stood several feet away. Others claim the air grows unnaturally cold, the type of chill that seems to settle into the bones. There are even reports of people leaving the park with scratches across their arms or legs. though no branches touched them. To some, it feels like the grieving mother is not simply mourning, but is lashing out, her sorrow turning into restless anger. Despite or perhaps because of these chilling tales, the wailing willow has become a point of fascination for paranormal investigators. Ghost hunters who've set up equipment near the tree report capturing unexplained audio, from muffled sobs to what sounds like a child crying faintly in the distance. Some claim to have recorded whispers, voices calling out names that match those of the family said to have lived nearby all those years ago. Photographs often show strange mists clinging to the tree's branches or orbs of light floating unnaturally close to its trunk. But not all encounters are terrifying. A few visitors insist that beneath the sorrow, there is also a strange sense of compassion in the air. They describe feeling watched not with malice, but with an aching sadness, as though the spirit tied to the willow longs for comfort she can never have. Some parents even claim their children have wandered toward the tree without fear, saying they saw a lady who looked lonely standing there. The city of Orlando has grown around the once isolated park, but the wailing willow remains untouched, preserved as though no one dares cut it down. Locals warn that to do so would be to invite misfortune, for the grieving woman's spirit is said to be bound to the tree, and disturbing it would release her wrath. To this day, the wailing willow stands as both a monument to sorrow and a reminder of the deep bond between mother and child. Beneath its curtain of branches, time seems to stand still, as if the tree itself holds the memory of that long-ago tragedy. Whether it is the wind or the spirit of a grieving woman, the cries heard their echo through the night, carrying with them a sorrow that refuses to fade. Those who visit the willow often leave with heavy hearts, as though they too have felt her pain. On the edge of Miami's bustling shoreline, where the city lights fade and the beaches grow quieter, there is a stretch of sand that locals rarely visit. Here, standing alone against the sky, is a single palm tree that has long been the subject of hushed whispers and unsettling tales. It is known as the phantom palm, a landmark as eerie as it is striking. Unlike the groves of palms that line Miami's resorts and tourist attractions, this one tree stands isolated, its trunk weathered by time and its fronds swaying even when the air is still. To those who know the legend, its isolation is no accident, but the result of a haunting that keeps people away. The story begins more than a century ago, long before Miami became the vibrant city it is today. The coastline was once wild and untamed, a place where sailors sought refuge after long journeys across unpredictable waters. One such sailor, whose name has been lost to time, is said to have made landfall near the spot where the phantom palm now stands. According to the tale, he had been at sea for months, battling storms and struggling to keep his vessel afloat. When he finally reached the shore, exhausted and broken, he tied his small boat near a cluster of palm trees and wandered inland in search of help. But help never came. The sailor vanished, his fate uncertain. Some say he collapsed from exhaustion, succumbing to the elements before anyone could find him. Others believe he returned to the sea in desperation, only to be swallowed by the unforgiving waves. Whatever his end, the only reminder of his presence was the palm tree near where he had tied his boat. As the years passed, storms ravaged the coastline, washing away most of the trees in that area. Yet the lone palm endured, standing firm against winds that flattened everything else. It wasn't long before strange stories began to circulate. Beachgoers spoke of seeing a shadowy figure pacing near the tree at night, his form flickering in and out of sight like a mirage. They described him as tall and gaunt, dressed in ragged clothing that flapped in the breeze, though there was often no breeze at all. His face was pale, his eyes hollow, as though he were forever searching the shoreline for something or someone he had lost. Those who saw him insisted he was no ordinary man, but the restless spirit of the sailor, bound to the palm that had once marked his final refuge. The most chilling part of the legend lies not in the sightings, but in the sounds. Even on nights when the sea is calm, with the water lapping gently at the sand, visitors claim to hear the unmistakable roar of crashing waves. The sound rises suddenly, as if a storm has materialized from nowhere, and just as quickly it fades, leaving only silence and unease in its wake. Some say the sound is the echo of the sailor's final battle with the ocean, replaying endlessly as his spirit relives his struggle against the sea that claimed him. Over time, the phantom palm became both a curiosity and a warning. Teenagers dared each other to visit the tree after dark, only to return pale and shaken, swearing they saw the figure of the sailor standing beneath its fronds. Fishermen reported hearing footsteps on the sand behind them when no one was there. A few even claimed to have heard a low, mournful voice calling out across the beach, though the words were indistinct, carried away by the wind before they could be understood. Paranormal investigators who have ventured to the site describe it as one of the most unnerving places in the region. Their recordings often pick up unexplained sounds, knocks, whispers, and the crashing of waves when the ocean is still. Cameras malfunction without warning, batteries drain in minutes, and photos frequently reveal orbs or streaks of light circling the palm. Some investigators have even claimed to capture the faint outline of a man standing beside the tree, his figure blurred and translucent. Yet despite the eerie reports, the phantom palm has a strange allure. Artists and poets have been drawn to it, inspired by its solitary beauty and tragic legend. They describe the tree as more than a ghostly landmark. It is a symbol of endurance, standing defiant against storms, time, and even death. For others, however, it is a reminder of how closely life and loss are intertwined along the sea. Locals avoid the beach after dusk, not out of superstition alone, but from an unspoken respect for the restless sailor. Many believe his spirit remains bound to the palm because he never found peace in life. Some leave offerings at its base, shells, coins, or small carvings of ships, hoping to soothe his spirit or grant him safe passage to the afterlife. Whether these gestures work is uncertain, but the sightings and sounds continue, suggesting that the sailor's bond with the phantom palm is not easily broken. Today, the phantom palm remains a lonely sentinel on Miami's shore, a tree surrounded by mystery and whispered warnings. Tourists who stumble upon it often marvel at its strange isolation, unaware of the legend it carries. But to those who know the story, the sight of the palm swaying against a calm sky is enough to send shivers down the spine. It is said that if you stand near it too long, you may feel the air grow heavy and hear the distant roar of waves that are there. And if you are truly unlucky, you may glimpse the sailor himself, standing in the shadows, forever bound to the tree that has become his phantom anchor. In Clearwater, nestled near the edge of a quiet marsh, stands an ancient cypress tree that has long been the subject of uneasy whispers and local legends. Its gnarled trunk twists skyward like the arms of a tortured soul, and its sprawling roots sink deep into the dark, wet earth. This is the cursed cypress, a tree avoided by most, a landmark that carries the weight of centuries and the shadow of a curse so potent that even the bravest passers-by approach with caution. The origins of the curse are murky, passed down through generations in hushed tones. Some say the tree marks the site of an old burial ground, where the bodies of those who died in tragedy were hastily interred. Others claim that it was once a meeting place for occult practitioners, and that a spell cast long ago bound misfortune to anyone who dared touch the tree. Whatever the truth, the belief is widespread. The cursed cypress is no ordinary tree, and it exacts a silent, insidious toll on those who ignore the warnings. Locals have recounted countless stories of strange occurrences near the tree. Some speak of people who approached the cypress out of curiosity or defiance, only to encounter a string of misfortunes soon after. A man who leaned against its trunk reportedly lost his job the following week. A woman who touched its roots was involved in a car accident days later. Even those who simply stood beneath its boughs for a few minutes claimed to have felt a creeping sense of dread that lingered long after they left the site. The visual phenomena are just as unnerving. At night, the cursed cypress seems to come alive. People have reported seeing flickering lights that appear to float around the tree, dancing among its branches and roots. Some describe them as small orbs of yellow and orange, others as faint ethereal glows that illuminate the twisted bark in a ghostly hue. The lights move unpredictably, sometimes hovering just out of reach, as if teasing those who dare to watch. Attempts to photograph or record them often fail, the lights vanishing or the footage corrupted in ways that defy explanation. Whispers are another common occurrence. Visitors speak of faint, indecipherable voices that drift on the marsh air, growing clearer and more urgent the closer they draw to the tree. Some claim to hear their own names, spoken in tones that are both pleading and ominous. Others hear warnings, soft and insistent, urging them to leave before the curse can claim them. Those who linger often report the whispers escalating to unintelligible murmurs, a chorus of voices that seem to seep from the tree itself, wrapping around the mind like a suffocating fog. Several paranormal investigators have explored the site, drawn by reports of unusual activity. Equipment left near the tree frequently malfunctions. EMF detectors spike without any discernible source, and audio recorders capture unexplained static and whispers. Cameras capture movement that is invisible to the naked eye, fleeting shadows darting among the branches. Some investigators claim to have felt a tangible weight pressing on their shoulders or a cold draft that circles them, though the marsh air remains still. Despite the warnings, the cursed cypress attracts thrill seekers and curiosity hunters. Teenagers often dare one another to touch the bark or leave offerings at its base. Some return shaken, pale, claiming they felt hands brush against them though no one else was there. Others speak of a sudden sense of being watched, a feeling so intense that it forces them to flee, abandoning whatever dare they had intended to complete. Stories of death and misfortune abound. One local legend tells of a fisherman who, after carving his initials into the tree, found his boat capsized the next morning under mysterious circumstances. Another recounts a hiker who tripped and injured himself while passing the tree, later discovering that every piece of equipment he carried had been damaged beyond repair. Even animals appear wary of the cursed cypress. Dogs growl or bark at seemingly empty space beneath its branches, and birds avoid nesting in its boughs, leaving the tree eerily silent despite the surrounding marsh teeming with life. Over time, the cursed cypress has become more than a cautionary tale. It is a symbol of the unknown, a living reminder of forces beyond human understanding. The marsh around it remains undisturbed, with locals instinctively avoiding the area after dusk. Some have tried to study it scientifically, examining the soil, water, and tree itself for natural explanations. But nothing accounts for the pattern of misfortune and the persistent, unexplained phenomena that follow those who come near. Even so, there are reports of a strange allure. A few visitors have described a magnetic pull toward the tree, a sensation that is both terrifying and compelling. They speak of standing before it, feeling an unshakable sense that the tree recognizes them, that it knows their secrets, and that it watches their every move. These encounters often leave a lasting impression, instilling a mix of fear, awe, and an uncanny respect for the ancient cypress. To this day, the cursed cypress stands as a silent sentinel in clear water, its twisted trunk and sprawling roots a testament to centuries of whispered warnings. It serves as both a monument to the unknown and a reminder of the consequences of curiosity when confronted with forces beyond comprehension. Locals continue to pass on the story to newcomers and tourists, urging them to admire it from a distance and never to touch its bark. For those who heed the warning, it is a quiet marvel of nature. For those who do not, it is a source of inexplicable misfortune, a reminder that some legends are better left unchallenged. In Naples, among the quiet fields that stretch beyond the city's busy streets, there stands a solitary fir tree that has long been the subject of whispered stories and cautious glances. Its branches reach skyward like frozen arms, and its dark needles seem to absorb the sunlight rather than reflect it. This is the phantom fir, a tree whose presence is as unsettling as it is mysterious. Unlike the ornamental trees that line parks and streets, this fir is isolated, standing in a field untouched by development, as if nature itself has kept it apart. Locals speak of it in hushed tones, warning that beneath its roots lies a tragic past and a restless spirit that has refused to leave. According to legend, The story of the phantom fir begins in the early 1900s, when Naples was still a small, developing town. A young woman, known for her gentle demeanor and kindness, lived on a small homestead near the field where the tree now stands. She was beloved by neighbors and family, but her life was marked by misfortune. One account suggests she died tragically during childbirth, another that she fell victim to an illness that swept through the area. Regardless of the circumstances, her passing left a deep sorrow that touched everyone who knew her. What made the story more haunting, however, was what followed. According to local lore, the woman was buried in the field beneath the fir tree, rather than in the town cemetery. Some say the land belonged to her family, and they wanted her close, while others believe the burial was hurried, meant to hide the tragedy from prying eyes. Over time, it became clear that her spirit had not moved on. Residents began to notice strange occurrences near the tree, sudden chills in the air, shadows that moved against the light, and a feeling of being watched even when no one was present. Visitors to the field often report an inexplicable drop in temperature when they approach the fir, as if the tree exudes an invisible cold that sinks into the bones. Even on warm, sunny days, standing beneath its branches can feel like stepping into a frozen void. Some say the wind carries faint whispers that seem to echo from the roots themselves. Voices too soft to understand, but heavy with longing and sadness. Others claim to see a faint figure near the base of the tree, a woman in a long dress, her hair flowing as though caught in an unseen breeze, her face pale and indistinct, but her eyes filled with an otherworldly sorrow. The sightings are not limited to solitary walkers. Families and groups passing by have reported seeing her apparition at the edge of the field, always near the fir. Some describe her standing silently, watching, while others claim she drifts slowly across the field, her figure almost translucent, vanishing whenever approached. Hikers and photographers have attempted to capture images of the figure, often reporting strange distortions or light anomalies in their photos. Cameras left unattended sometimes fail entirely, or the resulting footage contains glimpses of shapes that defy explanation. Paranormal investigators drawn to the site have documented similar phenomena. EMF readings spike unpredictably near the tree, and audio equipment often records faint voices or indistinct cries when nothing else is audible. Some investigators report the unmistakable feeling of being watched, accompanied by sudden chills that intensify the closer they get to the trunk. Others have described a sense of melancholy, so thick that it feels almost tangible, pressing against their minds like an invisible weight. Despite its eerie reputation, the phantom fir has a strange allure. A few visitors have reported feeling an irresistible pull toward it, as if drawn by a force beyond comprehension. Some claim that standing beneath the branches offers a fleeting sense of connection with the past, a brief glimpse into the life of the woman buried beneath. Yet, even those who feel this connection describe it as bittersweet, tinged with sorrow and unease, a reminder that some bonds cannot be easily broken. The field surrounding the tree remains undeveloped, a quiet expanse of grass and wildflowers that seems untouched by time. Locals avoid lingering near the tree after sunset, wary of the apparitions and the chilling sensations that accompany it. Children are told to stay away, and even tourists who stumble upon the site quickly retreat after glimpsing the dark, foreboding silhouette of the fir against the horizon. Over the years, the phantom fir has become both a symbol of Naples' haunted past and a cautionary tale. It serves as a reminder that even in a city known for its beaches and sunshine, shadows can linger, and not all spirits find rest. Those who have encountered the tree's ghostly presence speak of it with reverence and fear, warning others that the field is not merely a place to walk or explore. It is a threshold where the living brush against the sorrow of the departed. Some believe the spirit is tethered to the tree because her burial was hurried or improper, leaving her unable to find peace. Others suggest that her presence is a form of protection, a silent guardian watching over the field that once held her life. Whatever the truth, one thing remains certain. The phantom fir is no ordinary tree. It is a living monument to grief, to a life lost too soon, and to a spirit that refuses to fade into the quiet of history. In Fort Myers, amidst the quiet streets and shaded yards, there stands a hickory tree that has long been the center of local whispers and uneasy glances. Its branches spread wide, its bark dark and grooved with age, and its presence seems to dominate the small plot of land it inhabits. Known as the haunted hickory, this tree carries a heavy history, one steeped in tragedy, injustice, and lingering sorrow. Locals say it is haunted by the spirit of a man who was wrongfully accused of a crime and executed. A soul bound to the tree and its shadowy reach, refusing to rest. The story begins more than a century ago, when Fort Myers was still a fledgling town, small and tight-knit. A man of humble means lived nearby, respected for his honesty and kindness. One day, a violent crime shook the community. A robbery turned fatal. Without substantial evidence and in the grip of fear and panic, the townspeople quickly blamed the man, citing circumstantial details and old rumors. Despite his protests of innocence, he was arrested, tried hastily, and condemned. The trial was swift, the verdict seemingly inevitable, and before long, the man was led to a nearby clearing where the hickory tree now stands, and executed. From that moment, locals claim, the tree became more than a tree. It became a silent witness to a great injustice, and over time, the spirit of the man who died there seemed to cling to it. Residents began noticing strange occurrences almost immediately. Shadows appeared to move beneath the tree, even when no one was nearby. Passers-by heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps crunching against the dry earth. Sometimes, at dusk or just before dawn, a dark figure could be seen standing among the hickory's branches, tall and motionless, as if observing the world that had condemned him. The most unnerving reports involved the feeling of being followed. Visitors describe walking near the tree, only to sense a presence that mirrors their movements, always just beyond sight. A breeze would rustle the hickory's leaves, carrying faint whispers, pleas, murmurs, or sometimes accusations that seemed to echo from the past. Those brave enough to venture close to the trunk often report an oppressive weight pressing down on their shoulders. A chill that seeps into the bones, as if the spirit is reaching out to remind them of its lingering injustice. Sightings have been consistent across generations. Children playing nearby sometimes run screaming, claiming they saw a tall man standing silently beneath the hickory. Adults have recounted seeing shadowy movements darting between the roots and branches. Figures that vanish when approached, leaving nothing but disturbed leaves and a sense of unease. Photographs taken near the tree frequently reveal strange blurs, shadowy forms, or faint silhouettes that do not appear in real time, further fueling the legend. Paranormal investigators who have visited the haunted hickory report a range of unexplained phenomena. EMF meters spike without cause. Audio recordings pick up faint voices or footsteps when the area is otherwise silent, and compasses occasionally spin erratically. Some investigators have felt a sudden, intense cold envelop them near the base of the tree, a chill that seems to move with them. Others report experiencing vivid dreams after visiting the tree, dreams of a man pleading his innocence, of hurried footsteps, and of a noose beneath the hickory's gnarled limbs. Despite these eerie accounts, the haunted hickory draws visitors, though few linger for long. Thrill seekers and curious tourists are often compelled to approach, some even daring to touch the bark. Almost invariably, they report a sudden shiver, the feeling of an unseen hand brushing against them, or a sudden sense of dread that forces them to leave. Some local lore insists that anyone who disrespects the tree, climbing it, cutting its bark, or mocking its legend invites misfortune. Though the stories of what befalls such individuals are vague and chilling, the hickory has endured storms, hurricanes, and the passage of time, yet it remains, standing solitary and imposing. Locals often leave small tokens at its base, coins, flowers, or notes pleading for forgiveness, believing that these gestures may calm the spirit or at least demonstrate respect. Whether these offerings have any effect is unknown, but the tree remains a place of caution and reverence. Beyond the chilling tales, the haunted hickory is also a testament to memory and the consequences of injustice. The spirit tethered to it is not violent, nor overtly malicious. It is sorrowful, persistent, and ever watchful, lingering presence born from betrayal and wrongful death. To those who encounter it, the tree serves as both a warning and a reminder. The past can leave shadows that stretch into the present, and some wrongs are never easily undone. Today, the haunted hickory stands as a silent sentinel in Fort Myers, a dark and ancient witness to history, grief, and restless spirits. The ground around it remains quiet, save for the occasional rustle of leaves or the distant sound of footsteps that do not belong to the living. Locals continue to tell its story, cautioning newcomers and visitors to respect the tree and the spirit it shelters. Those who heed the warning speak of a lingering sense of sorrow and awe, a recognition that the hickory is more than wood, and leaves it as a monument to a life wronged and a spirit that refuses to fade. In St. Petersburg, nestled at the edge of an old, wind-swept park, there stands a spruce tree that has long captured the imagination of locals and visitors alike. Its dark green needles form a dense canopy that seems to swallow the sunlight, and its trunk is thick and gnarled, marked by age and the scars of countless storms. This is the specter spruce, a tree entwined with tragedy, legend, and the restless spirit of a sailor who perished in a violent storm long ago. Those who pass by claim that it is far more than a mere tree. It is a monument to loss and a window into the past, where the veil between the living and the dead seems thin. The legend dates back to the early 1900s, when St. Petersburg was a bustling port city and the waters nearby were both lifeline and danger. A young sailor, known for his skill and courage, set out on a routine voyage, but was caught in a sudden and ferocious storm. The waves were merciless, and the winds tore at the sails until the ship was overwhelmed. Despite the efforts of the crew, the sailor was lost to the sea. His body never recovered. Heartbroken, the community mourned him, and according to local lore, a spruce tree was later planted in the park to mark the approximate spot where he was last seen at. Living memorial for a life claimed too soon. Soon after the tree's planting, strange occurrences began to be reported. Visitors walking near the specter spruce claim that the air grows noticeably colder, even on warm days, as if the presence of the deceased sailor lingers. Some speak of hearing the soft crash of waves against a distant shore, carried on the wind even though the ocean is far away. Others have reported the faint, rhythmic sound of boots on wood, echoing as if someone were pacing near the base of the tree. These sounds vanish the moment one attempts to locate their source, leaving only a profound sense of unease. Many sightings focus on the figure of the sailor himself. Witnesses describe a translucent man, clad in the rough attire of a seafaring life, standing near the tree or wandering among its roots. His face is often described as pale and distant, eyes fixed on some unseen horizon. Some claim he seems to be searching, endlessly scanning the park as though waiting for a ship that will never return. Those who approach too closely report that he vanishes before their eyes, leaving only the impression of cold mist where his figure had stood. The effects are not merely visual or auditory. Several people have described a heavy, almost suffocating feeling while standing beneath the specter spruce. It is as if the weight of sorrow and loss presses down from the branches above, a palpable presence that communicates grief without words. Some report a sudden chill that wraps around them, the temperature dropping dramatically for no reason, while others feel a tingling sensation on their skin, as though invisible hands are brushing against them. Paranormal enthusiasts have visited the site repeatedly, drawn by reports of ghostly activity. EMF detectors spike unpredictably, and audio recordings capture distant voices. Indistinct but clearly human, echoing the sound of distress or warning. Cameras often capture fleeting shadows or glimmers of light near the tree, shapes that vanish the moment anyone attempts to investigate. Investigators claim that the tree seems to respond to attention, watching, waiting, and interacting with those who dare to trespass into its silent domain. Despite its ominous reputation, the specter spruce has a strange allure. Many visitors feel a magnetic pull toward it, a sense that the tree itself calls to them, drawing them close to witness the lingering spirit of the sailor. Some speak of an almost spiritual experience, standing beneath the branches and imagining the life he lived. the shipwreck that claimed him, and the sorrow of a community left behind. Others, however, report an immediate urge to flee, as though the tree warns them that its presence is not meant to be confronted casually. Local residents maintain a cautious respect for the tree. Children are warned not to play near it after dark, and those passing through the park at twilight often quicken their pace, glancing nervously at the spruce. Some leave small tokens at its base, coins, notes, or pieces of rope, hoping to honor the sailor or to placate the restless spirit. Whether these gestures have any effect is unknown, but the legend endures, carried through generations as a reminder of the fragility of life and the presence of those who cannot rest. The specter spruce also serves as a bridge between history and the present. It reminds the people of St. Petersburg that the waters that sustain the city can also take without warning, and that some losses leave marks not only in memory but on the landscape itself. The tree stands as a silent witness to grief, a sentinel of sorrow, and a living memorial to a man who never returned from the sea. Even today, the spruce casts its long shadow across the park, its needles whispering in the wind. Visitors occasionally hear the faint sound of waves, the echo of boots on wood, or the low sigh of a sailor who waits endlessly. To approach the specter spruce is to step into a space where past and present converge, where grief and memory intertwine, and where the restless spirit of a sailor continues his eternal vigil. It is a place of beauty, sorrow, and haunting remembrance, a testament to the power of legend and the enduring presence of those lost to the sea. On the outskirts of Homestead, far from the busy streets and modern farms, there stands a peculiar tree that has long intrigued locals and unsettled travelers, known as the phantom pineapple. This odd pine stands alone in a field, its branches strangely rounded and textured, resembling the spiky crown of a pineapple rather than the sharp needles of ordinary pines. Its silhouette is unmistakable against the sunset, casting a long shadow across the surrounding grass. But what makes the tree truly legendary is not its shape. It is the story of a man who vanished nearly a century ago, whose spirit is said to remain bound to the phantom pineapple, wandering its branches and haunting the field around it. The tale begins in the 1920s, when a solitary farmer lived near the site of the tree. He was known to be a gentle and hard-working man, someone who spoke little but smiled often, tending his crops with care. Yet despite his good nature, he had enemies, rivals who envied his fertile land, townsfolk suspicious of his eccentric ways, and neighbors who whispered about his strange habits. One evening, under a sky heavy with storm clouds, the farmer simply disappeared. His house and belongings were left untouched, his tools abandoned in the field, and no sign of him was ever found. Rumors spread quickly. Some believed he had been taken by the forest spirits, others that he had fled to start a new life, and a few whispered darker explanations, hinting at foul play. Soon after his disappearance, those who ventured near the unusual tree reported strange phenomena. The first noticeable oddity was the faint glow that seemed to emanate from its branches at dusk. Locals claimed that as the sun dipped below the horizon, the phantom pineapple shimmered with a subtle golden light, not unlike the glow of a lantern or firefly, yet without any discernible source. Many who witnessed this glow said it felt both comforting and ominous, as if the tree itself were alive with the memory of the man who vanished there. Accompanying the glow was a sound that often startled visitors. On calm evenings, when the wind barely stirred, people reported hearing a soft, melodic humming. Those familiar with the legend insist it was the farmer's favorite tune, whistled as he worked the fields. Sometimes the sound would grow louder as someone approached the tree, only to vanish the instant they looked directly at it. Others described the humming as strangely layered, as though multiple voices or echoes were entwined, repeating fragments of a song long forgotten. Shadows are also said to move unnaturally around the phantom pineapple. Travelers walking near the tree often report glimpsing fleeting shapes between its branches, human silhouettes that appear to replay moments from the farmer's last day. Some see him bending over the soil, tending his crops, while others witness more unsettling visions. A figure turning suddenly, looking over its shoulder with eyes full of fear, or standing silently and staring at the intruder. Attempts to approach or capture these shadows usually fail. Cameras left near the tree often show nothing more than branches swaying in the breeze, though those who were present insist they saw something far more solid and human-like. Visitors also recount sudden changes in temperature and an eerie feeling of being watched. The air around the phantom pineapple is said to grow noticeably colder at certain moments, a chill that sinks into the bones even on warm days. Some describe a prickling sensation on the back of their necks or the inexplicable sense of footsteps pacing behind them when no one else is around. Many who linger too long leave with the feeling that the tree and the spirit within it has been observing their every movement, silently judging, and perhaps warning them not to linger. Paranormal investigators have visited the site over the decades, documenting the tree's strange effects. EMF readings fluctuate wildly near the trunk. Audio recordings sometimes capture the faint hum of whistling, and night vision cameras occasionally pick up unexplainable movements among the branches. Those who spend hours near the tree often report a pervasive melancholy, an oppressive weight that presses on the mind and heart, as though the field itself remembers the farmer's sorrow and confusion. Despite the unsettling phenomena, the phantom pineapple continues to draw visitors, both curious and brave. Many come to witness the glowing branches, to hear the faint hum, or to catch a glimpse of the shadows that replay the farmer's last moments. Locals warn newcomers to treat the tree with respect. It is said that mocking the tree, disturbing the soil around it, or attempting to harm it brings misfortune. Those who have ignored these warnings sometimes return with tales of nightmares, bad luck, or sudden illnesses, though the details are often whispered rather than openly discussed. The phantom pineapple is more than a haunted landmark. It is a reminder of lives disrupted, of disappearances that remain unexplained, and of the lingering power of memory. The tree stands as a sentinel over the field, a silent witness to a past that refuses to fade. Its glow at dusk, its soft hum, and the dancing shadows between its branches offer a glimpse into a world where time, loss, and grief have left an indelible mark. To this day, the phantom pineapple stands solitary, its unusual shape unmistakable against the horizon. The field around it remains quiet, save for the occasional rustle of wind through the needles or the faint echo of a tune carried on the evening air. Those who venture close may feel a chill, see shadows move, or hear the farmer's whistled melody. And if they pause long enough, some say they can sense the presence of a man who never left, whose spirit lingers still, bound to the tree and the field he once tended, forever a part of the land he loved and the legend that endures. In the dense mangroves of Key Largo, where twisted roots rise from the water and the air carries the scent of salt and decay, there stands a sprawling tree known to locals as the lantern tree. Its massive branches stretch outward like skeletal arms, draped in vines and moss, and its roots plunge deep into the swampy waters below. By day, it appears as an imposing yet ordinary mangrove, but as night falls, it transforms into something uncanny, something alive with eerie lights and whispers that have made it one of the most feared and fascinating landmarks in the Keys. Fishermen, guides, and local residents have told tales of lantern-like orbs that appear around the tree after dark. These glowing lights, soft and amber, float in the air like fireflies, bobbing gently above the water and weaving through the branches. Some claim that the lights seem to have a purpose, guiding travelers along hidden paths, illuminating safe routes through the tangle of mangrove roots. Others warn that these orbs are deceptive, luring the unwary deeper into the swamp, away from solid ground and into areas where the water is dark and treacherous. There are countless stories of travelers who follow the lights, only to find themselves hopelessly lost, circling back to where they first saw the tree, as if the swamp itself were alive and rearranging its paths. The experience is unsettling in more ways than one. Those who encounter the lantern tree at night often describe a sudden drop in temperature, a chill that seeps into the bones and sends shivers down the spine. The air becomes thick with humidity, and the scent of mangrove decay intensifies, mixing with the salt and brine of the surrounding waters. As the lights dance, Whispers drift across the water, sometimes faint, sometimes urgent. The voices sound both familiar and otherworldly, as though carrying fragments of conversations long forgotten. Some insist they can hear their own names called softly, carried on the wind, or the echoes of loved ones who have passed, drawing them closer to the tree. Stories of encounters with the lantern tree are often eerie and deeply personal. One fisherman recounted setting out late in his small boat, hoping to navigate a shortcut through the mangroves. He saw the lights bobbing just ahead, glowing softly among the twisted roots. As he followed them, the water became shallower and the branches lower, pressing closer to his boat. He turned to look back, only to find the shore he had just left was no longer visible. The lights seemed to pulse and shift, and when he finally abandoned the pursuit, paddling blindly, he found himself back where he had begun. Heart racing, the whispering voices fading into the night. Another tale tells of a young couple camping near the edge of the mangroves. Intrigued by the legends, they stayed up late, watching the water and listening to the night sounds. Around midnight, the lantern-like orbs appeared, floating near the tree. The couple followed them cautiously, fascinated, until the lights began moving in erratic patterns, circling them, twisting and shifting like living creatures. Panic set in as the whispers grew louder, voices overlapping and speaking in languages neither of them recognized. By the time they stumbled back to the safety of their campsite, the orbs had vanished, but the memory of the chilling whispers and the impossible maze of mangrove paths lingered with them for years. Researchers and paranormal enthusiasts have visited the lantern tree to investigate its strange phenomena. Some attempt to record the lights with cameras and drones, capturing fleeting orbs that seem to drift independently of any natural source. Audio equipment often picks up low-frequency sounds, interpreted as whispers or murmurs, though skeptics attribute them to the wind or the swamp itself. Even seasoned investigators admit that something about the tree defies explanation. The paths of the mangroves seem to shift, and the lights do not behave according to the laws of physics. Despite the danger, the lantern tree continues to draw curiosity seekers. Local guides advise extreme caution, emphasizing that the tree is unpredictable and potentially hazardous. The glow of the orbs is mesmerizing, and the whispers are tempting. But those who disrespect the swamp, stray from the paths, or attempt to chase the lights for too long often regret it. Legends suggest that the tree remembers those who approach, and that it can manipulate the surrounding area to confuse, trap, or even frighten intruders. Yet, the lantern tree is not entirely malevolent. Some fishermen claim the lights have saved them during storms or when fog and darkness made navigation impossible. The orbs sometimes appear to guide them to safe channels, glimmering over shallow water or around dangerous routes. In these stories, the tree is a guardian, a mysterious presence that can offer protection as well as peril. Its dual nature, the ability to guide and to deceive, adds to the mystique and deepens the legend that surrounds it. Over the years, the lantern tree has become a symbol of the Key Largo mangroves, a place where nature, memory, and the supernatural intertwine. It stands as a living testament to the mysteries that thrive at the edge of the known world, where the natural environment itself seems to possess a consciousness, bending light, sound, and perception to its will. Travelers and locals alike are drawn to it, whether to witness the strange lights, listen for the whispers, or simply to marvel at the enigma it presents. In the quiet streets of Pensacola, near the aged stones of a historic cemetery, stands a towering magnolia tree that locals call the Mourning Magnolia. Its massive trunk is gnarled with age, and its limbs stretch outward in a wide canopy. Heavy with glossy green leaves and the fragrant white blossoms for which magnolias are famous. By day, it is a striking tree, admired for its beauty and the sense of calm it brings to the cemetery grounds. By night, however, it becomes something far more unsettling, a place where grief lingers, where whispers of sorrow and unseen presences seem to dwell among the roots and branches. The legend of the Mourning Magnolia begins in the late 1800s, when a young mother lost her only child to a sudden and cruel illness. Overcome with grief, she would leave her home each evening and walk through the cemetery to the tree, her steps slow and deliberate. Beneath the magnolia's sprawling branches, she would sit, cradling the memory of her lost child, and weep until the night's darkness wrapped around her. Those who saw her spoke of the sorrow etched into her face, of her cries that seemed to echo through the cemetery long after she had gone. It is said that she eventually died in her grief, her spirit joining the shadows of the graveyard, yet remaining forever tethered to the tree where she had spent so many lonely nights. Visitors to the mourning magnolia often report experiences that defy easy explanation. Many speak first of sound, the soft, plaintive sobbing of a woman that seems to rise from the ground beneath the tree. The cries are faint at first, almost a whisper, but they grow steadily more distinct as one approaches the trunk. Some claim they can feel the vibration of grief in the air, a weight pressing against the chest, as though the tree itself is saturated with sorrow. The sobbing is not constant. It ebbs and flows, appearing strongest when the wind is still or when the night is at its darkest. Alongside the sound, there is another uncanny aspect of the tree, its scent. Magnolia blossoms are fragrant, but beneath the mourning magnolia, the sweet aroma carries an unusual undertone. Those who linger report the faint temps of tears or salt, as if the sorrow of the grieving mother is mixed into the very air. The scent often seems strongest in unexpected moments, just as a visitor rounds the trunk, or when the wind shifts, carrying the fragrance across the cemetery paths. It is both beautiful and unsettling, a reminder of life, loss, and memory intertwined. On particularly windy nights, the tree appears to move on its own. The leaves and branches, heavy with blossoms, part in ways that suggest intention rather than randomness, revealing a figure beneath the trunk. Witnesses describe it as pale, seated, shoulders bowed, the outline of a woman shrouded in darkness and sorrow. Some swear they see her lips moving, as if speaking to her lost child, while others report a sudden chill that spreads through their body when the figure becomes visible. Those who attempt to approach often find the figure vanishing before their eyes, leaving only the branches swaying in an empty space and the lingering scent of magnolia. Many who experience the mourning magnolia say that the tree has a way of drawing attention to what is unseen. Travelers passing through the cemetery at dusk often notice shadows among the roots, glimpses of movement that disappear when one turns to look directly. Others describe a sensation of being watched, as if the grieving mother is aware of every step and heartbeat, silently observing the living as they cross into her domain. Some claim the tree itself seems alive in these moments, bending branches subtly toward them or letting petals fall like tears onto the ground. Local lore has also preserved warnings about the tree. Children are told not to play near it after dark, and newcomers are advised to treat it with respect. It is said that mocking the tree or attempting to disturb its roots invites misfortunes, strange accidents, unexpected sadness, or the persistent feeling of being followed. Conversely, those who approach the mourning magnolia quietly, acknowledging the grief that hangs in the air, often leave with only the faint impression of presence of melancholy that lingers but does not harm. Paranormal investigators have documented some of these phenomena. Audio equipment sometimes captures soft sobs that appear to come from the ground, and temperature readings reveal sudden drops around the tree's base. Cameras occasionally record shadows moving against the bark or a pale shape shifting among the roots. While skeptics attempt to rationalize these occurrences, believers insist that the mourning magnolia is a repository of grief, a tree that remembers, and a spirit that endures. Despite, or perhaps because of its eerie reputation, the mourning magnolia continues to draw visitors. Some come out of curiosity, hoping to catch a glimpse of the pale figure or hear the whispered sobs. Others come with reverence, laying flowers at its base or quietly speaking to the spirit of the grieving mother. For many, the experience is profound, a brush with loss and memory, an encounter with something that exists between the living and the dead, and a reminder of the enduring power of grief and love. And there you have it, 28 haunted trees that stand as silent witnesses to Florida's darkest secrets, from the Devil's Tree in Port St. Lucie to the Crying Cypress in Fort Pierce. Each tree holds a story of sorrow, loss, or restless spirits that linger long after death. These ancient sentinels remind us that the natural world often hides more than beauty. It hides echoes of lives and tragedies that time cannot erase. If you ever find yourself wandering through Florida's forests, parks, or swamps, remember, these trees are watching, listening, and perhaps waiting. Whether you are a believer in the supernatural or a curious traveler, the whispers of the haunted trees are not easily forgotten. Thank you for joining us on this eerie journey through Florida's most haunted trees. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell icon so you never miss another chilling tale from Whispers from the Shadows. Until next time, keep your lights on, tread carefully, and listen closely, because you never know what might be watching from the branches above.